And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. Today's episode, we'll be discussing the latest patch that was patched and then unpatched because. And followed by that, we'll be discussing some little tidbits here and there, like boss spawn rates, a few things that may or may not still be in the patch. Who knows what's going on anymore? Followed by arena roadmap, and then we're going to talk about GrayZone Warfare, and then a little bit of what we've been up to as far as progression and testing out different stuff in Tarkov. Oh, and GrayZone Warfare. We'll have a small little segment for that as well.
Sounds all like good stuff. So, the patch that wasn't, eh? The patch that wasn't. What a fun time! What a fun old time. I mean, this is the best outcome. The patch seemed quite bad. I mean, what should we do? Should we run through what they did? I guess we probably should. We'll try not to spend too long on it. Obviously, it's not like in the game, but there is some interesting stuff, right? About like what they did with the armor and then they undid with the armor, because then we kind of like we'll figure out exactly where we are. So, like the very first thing on the patches, which is like 14.1, was what they basically said here, like rework the damage through layers of armor. Now when each layer is penetrated, but it loses some penetration power and damage depending on the characteristics. I mean, I'm sure most people have like seen the video that I did on it, but like broadly what ended up happening was beforehand. So I could kind of see what they tried to do, but they just didn't do it very well. So beforehand, before this patch, and actually how it works like right now is the same as like the APM video that I did. So plates don't actually. I haven't tested this, but I'm assuming this is true, but I'm pretty sure it is. The plates don't give any damage mitigation. So if you get shot with M85 6A1 to a class 4 plate and you get the wrong roll twice, then it just kills you. Whereas normally that wouldn't happen because the bullet's damage would go from 50, whatever it is, 52 or something, 53, down to like, I don't know, like 40 or whatever, even if it goes through. So it wouldn't normally two-shot you, but it does at the moment. Whereas a soft armor like the Ulay is receiving damage reduction. So APM ammo can one-tap a class 4 plate, but it can't one-tap a Ulay.
Yeah. So
that's gone back to like that mechanic. What happened when they implemented whatever they tried to do, they managed to reverse those things. So the Ulay, so the soft armor no longer was getting damage mitigation, but then plates were for some reason. So it just swapped the situation. So the Ulay would get one tapped by APM, but a class 4 armor plate wouldn't, and neither would a class 5 plate or whatever. So I mean, it probably was better that way round, I suppose, because like the Ulay is sort of a fringe case these days rather than like the base case. But even still, like stuff just wasn't really making sense. So that just didn't really work. And they also added, there was like a interesting part that they changed just with this in general, was that they added, like, well, it says the second point, fixed an issue with missing blunt damage when hitting a ballistic plate. Now, loads of people, me included, thought that was a feature of the armor system and going, well, if you get shot in like a steel plate with a 9mm bullet, and then you've got like class 3 aramid behind or whatever, like you're basically not even going to really feel it. So you shouldn't really take damage. So that kind of makes sense. I was in Airwing's stream when he was doing the very early testing. He was discovering that feature super early on with Tower, and we had that discussion basically. Well, this is sort of realistic. Like, kind of makes sense. I can kind of see where they've done that. Like, that's not always true, but it's true enough to be a thing in the game. So that's fine. But it's funny that they've actually literally listed it as an item and been like, this is a problem. It's a missing blunt damage or whatever, and their intention to decrease that blunt damage when there's soft armor behind. So if you've just got a plate carrier with the plate and you get shot, then that's one thing. But then if you've got class 2 or class 3 aramid behind, then it should decrease the blunt damage further. I mean, from a game mechanics perspective, I imagine what they're doing is the plate will have some blunt damage, and then that will then go through another layer of like blunt throughput or whatever on the underlay, something like that, before it comes to you. So it probably will be very, very small. That's probably how they balance it or whatever. Like blunt throughputs are normally somewhere in the region of like 15 to 20% on most armors. So if it's like you're getting blunt damage anyway, and that's, I don't know, so even if you get shot with an M80, for example, and that's 80 damage, and it passes through 20%, that's like 16. Well, then if it then goes through, passes another 20% layer, then you're only receiving like 3. So that's realistically probably what will happen, I think. So that's not like, it's not the end of the world. Honestly, I don't think it really matters. I think they could leave plates as just being 0 blunt, and it practically wouldn't make any difference. But either which way, they did that. They adjusted some of the hitboxes, which did seem to work. So you couldn't pen like thorax and stomach at the same time. I don't think you could pen like upper arm into the thorax anymore and stuff like this. So some of the like spillover mechanics were kind of adjusted. So that's kind of gone back to the way it used to be. And you could put like some of the granite plates into the Wartech rigs, but I don't think anyone really cared about that. But yeah, it's interesting to see like what they intended to do, because I reckon like some of this stuff will come back in another format at some point. The only other interesting part about the armor thing was that they changed the base armor from class 2 to class 3. Like just to make sure that we understand here, right? This is not in the game at the moment. This was only in the game for a day, so these armors aren't like this right now. But like the trooper, the ACPC, like a goons rig, one of the goons rigs, the Bagari, the ANAM2, the AVS, the Tequila rig, and the TacTech. They changed all of those to class 3 for a day, and then had to roll it back along with the rest of everything else. But you can assume that those probably will be class 3 eventually, which of that list, 4 of them are what I would classify as good, and 4 of them are bad. 4 of those things only protect the plate box with the soft armor, being that's like Tequila,
Trooper,
TacTech, ACPC. No, Trooper's thorax. Trooper's thorax, surprisingly.
Oh.
And the other one is the the goons one. So the goons one, the Tequila one, the TacTech, and the ACPC are all like plate only for the soft. But then the Trooper, the Bagari, the ANAM2, and the Cry AVS are all thorax soft protection with plate in front of it. So it does increase the size of that protection a bit. So I think the ones that are probably going to, once they re-implement that, probably the biggest winners of those is probably the Bagari probably becomes like actually okay, because the Bagari at class 2, it's like very similar to the Corund, but it's probably the best of those like cheap class 5s, because you can put the Corund front in the Bagari. I don't think you can you put side plates in it? I can't remember, but that probably becomes like okay because it's relatively cheap anyway from Ragman. And the other one that's probably okay is the NAM2 plate carrier. That's sort of a little hidden winner maybe, or maybe even the AVS, but none of those have neck, I don't think. So they're not going to be like meta or anything.
Does the AVS have groin protection?
The AVS does have groin.
Okay, that's something.
So that's something. That's something. But yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't recommend the other ones that don't actually have like the full thorax covered by the soft armor, because I just don't really see why you wouldn't take it. Right? It's like there's lots of armors that have it. So
yeah,
the armors that don't, like even if they're class 3, like the Slick and all those others, there's just no point. So yeah, that was most of what they did with the armor stuff. It said that they adjusted the head colliders for ears and eyes, although I could still one-shot people through the head with APSX.
Oh, really?
So
yeah, I do remember seeing that in your video.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what the deal with that is. I mean, I as I said in the video, I actually don't care about that, because I think it should kill you.
Yeah.
So even if it's bugged, I think it's like actually working properly, which is kind of odd. And then there's just like they just did like loads of other bug fixes. So like I guess what else do we talk about from the actual patch? The things that were like bad.
Well, wasn't there a line about I mean, I can't see it now, but about hitting like multiple remove possibility for bullets to pierce through character's thorax and stomach.
Yeah, exactly. So so you can't like pen through multiple hitboxes within the actual player model, and I couldn't get it to work with APSX. I could only get like leg to leg and arm to arm to work. I couldn't get like arm into thorax or like thorax through to. I couldn't get like 70 damage, for example. So I couldn't get like a multi hit. So it did seem to work in some way.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's like there were some good things that they changed. Honestly, like some of this stuff was okay. Someone's reminded me that there was a little drop down to show you what a plate could be used with, like in your armor, in your stash.
That's a really nice
which is
feature.
quite good.
Yeah.
But like all of that's come back. They did fix the left shoulder shooting being a different FOV or like a different eye relief, which was kind of a shame. But obviously we're back to normal now. BTR seemed to get fixed. So there's a load of other stuff that was actually okay. They fixed like the scope, like weird accidental, like you get locked into having it canted over. But the most controversial one was probably the pistols thing. I would guess. And yeah, it was pretty bad. Somebody actually messaged me about like, oh, what have they done to pistols? And I went to go and test it out myself, and I was just like, oh my god, like if you fire the M9, it just fires like it's so high because like the barrel for whatever, I don't know what they did exactly, but like the barrel doesn't recover fast enough, and so when you fire the next bullet, like the barrel's still pointing upwards. And I had a lot of actually people in the comments being like,
Come
oh, it's
on.
not technically not firing over the iron sights, technically, because if you can look, you can clearly see from the barrel. And I'm just like, look, man, it feels crap. Like, just get over it, right? It feels awful. I don't care. It just feels terrible. This is not good. So yeah, like the barrel's not recovering fast enough so that you can't shoot the next round on target. There are, to be fair, honestly, I was surprised. There are people who are like arguing that pistols are OP in the current formulation. And I'm actually like kind of shocked. Maybe I've just not experienced it enough or whatever, but like I'm genuinely shocked that people think the pistols like are OP
Do they
in
provide
any way. Like
any explanation as to why they think it's OP?
well, just the fact that the recoil's insanely low, the ADS speed is super high,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like incredible. The recoil's just incredibly low. You can get it on target like every time. I'm like, the STM short like is the same, no, and the SAG AKs is kind of the same, and like, maybe not quite the same, but
yeah.
and you don't have the range, and I don't know, like I don't know. I don't think anything that's semi-auto using pistol caliber is OP. I just think it's tough.
Yeah, I don't think so because the one like okay, like sure I'll give them like the recoil's low and the ergo is high, but I'm pretty sure like almost all the pistols have one pretty significant flaw, which is that their MOA is like not great. Like we're talking like 7 to 9, sometimes 10. Like
I don't think I've ever even looked.
Yeah, well, you'll find out if you try to shoot someone from like, I don't know, maybe 100 meters, maybe like 80.
What's the 5.7? The 5.7 is normally the best for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 7.5. Okay, so it's quite wide.
That's what I was just checking because I was like 5.7 might be the one exception, but because like I was using the Glock and there was a few times where I had to like shoot something at range, and it's just like a kind of a crapshoot at that point, like because normally you want to hit them in the head, but if at range it's kind of like a little bit sketchy. I don't know. It might not actually be that bad. It's honestly, it's so hard for me to like gauge what MOA actually means. Like I understand what it means in real life, but in Tarkov, like it's kind of not very translatable to me, at least.
The only thing I would say about what you said and all the people who'll be like, oh well, it's just XYZ, right? And in Tarkov it's double, blah blah blah. I haven't tested this myself, but I believe that accuracy is like, I don't know if it's bugged. I don't know whether you'd call it like bugged. I don't know. I use the word bugged cautiously, but I think that there is a multiplier on it at the moment that appeared at some point. Like I haven't tested this, but from what people have said, accuracy, it seems to be like maybe 40% worse than you would think, looking at the number based on how we used to think about it. I believe, but don't quote me on that one. But I've seen that being bandied around, being like it used to be, IRL. It's like the diameter of like one MOA is like whatever it is, 1 inch at 100 yards or whatever. But in Tarkov, it's like the radius. That's like the basic principle, right? And then people were saying, well, actually, when you go measure it now, there was some change at some point, and that it doesn't. What's weird is it seems that if you do it actually in offline, accuracy isn't. I don't think accuracy is even a thing in offline sometimes for certain guns. I'm not sure. Like I haven't tested this, so like I'm just like talking about what I've seen. I've seen clips of people doing stuff, and then people coming in and being like, oh yeah, but that's because this doesn't happen in offline. Blah blah. You have to test like accuracy in online and all this stuff. But then when you actually do, it's like 1.4 times what you'd expect, even based on the old system, or something along those lines. Anyway, so the fact that it's not particularly intuitive to you, I would say that's probably not necessarily your fault, because I don't think it's completely I don't think it's completely sensible at the moment. I'm not sure. I'd need, like, it's one of those things where like it would take me a while to go and look into it, and I don't think most people are interested because it doesn't matter most of the time. So like that's always the thing that I'm balancing. Is just like, is it worth me looking into this topic? Because do most people care whether it's like 1.3 or 1.6 MOA on their rifle? Like 99% of the time in Tarkov, like you just don't care. Funny enough, it looks like I was actually intrigued about this because I know that the revolver shotgun has got the best accuracy out of all the shotty without modding or anything, I think. And the Rhino pistol that fires the 357, that one is 5.16 MOA. So that's actually the lowest one, I think, from what I found. What's the RSH?
6.
Okay, yes. So the Jeppa Rhino is probably one of the best ones, actually.
Okay, I just noticed something really weird, Giga, and I can't figure it out, so maybe you can. So right now, this 5.7 with the suppressor has 7.5 MOA. And then I'm going to load in SS190 rounds into it, and it doesn't have any debuffs on accuracy, right? So I'm going to put it in the mag. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. And then I'm gonna slap the mag in there. And then, you know, there's no change on the MOA, right? And I'm hovering over it, and then I release, and it drops to 8.25.
Sure there's no debuff?
Yeah, I just looked.
Oh.
What the heck?
Wait, hold on.
I don't understand.
Hold on. What is this? What is this wizardry?
I mean,
I've got a 5.7 here with 7.5.
Do you have any other rounds? I have L19.
Have I got SS190? I do have SS190. We're trying this live then.
Oh, even L19's different. It lowers it by a different value.
Why does that change it?
Oh, but actually L191 has minus 4% listed. So SS190 must have something listed that's not actually showing up. I have 193. Let me just see what 193 does. This is a complete side tangent, but
this is a really super side tangent. The best place to go for this
must be a hidden stat.
No Foods 1 EFT ammo. Let me have a quick look, because I think some of the wiki stuff gets done manually. No, there's nothing on it.
It's a bug. Report it.
That is weird. Huh. That is weird.
You said it.
It goes from 7.5 to 8.25.
I think the value is 5%, if I had to guess, because the L191 dropped it by... Oh, I could just look real quick.
It looks like it's 10%.
Actually, yeah, I think you're right, because it's way more. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks like it's 10%.
L191 dropped it by 8.58, which is
14.5%, or 14.4%. But its accuracy debuff should only be 4. So it's almost as if there's an extra 10% being applied there for like no reason.
Dude, I don't know.
I've also got SS197 SR, which has actually got a 10% positive accuracy debuff. If I put that in, nothing happens. And I think this might be because the 5.7.
I was gonna say
has SS197 SR as its default bullet.
Oh, interesting.
Which it indeed does. So the 5.7's default stats are shown with a 10% accuracy buff by default. And when you put SS190 in, that's changing it from plus 10 to 0. Because it uses SS197 SR as its default round.
What about another
mystery solved?
Wait, hold on now. Let's not jump to conclusions. Do you have a...
Well, that's it. That's the reason.
Do you have another 5.7 round in a different weapon that uses a different default round?
Well, the only other alternative is the P90.
Yeah.
What does the P90 use?
Probably the same, if I had to guess.
Probably the same. Let's have a look. Yeah, it uses 197 SR as
Either
well.
which way, do you have a P90 on hand?
I don't think so.
I'll snag it real quick for the content.
Okay.
This is
Go on,
what
then.
everyone's dying to know. No, but seriously, I love how like they do the pistol change, right? And it's like, you know, the uproar from like the community. There's like the small subsection of like pistol users who are like, just, you know, the world's on fire, they're freaking out, and BSG's like, whoa, don't mess with the pistol users. Holy crap. You know what I mean? It's like you mess with the wrong community.
Harry in chat just asked a good question, which is that the same for all guns? That the default gets worse? I would say no. It really depends on what the ammo is that BSG have decided is the default for that particular gun. If you go on the wiki for any weapon, let's just look up like let's just look up the org for argument's sake on the wiki. On the right hand side, so the default bullet for that is 5.56 FMJ. And that doesn't have any debuffs or anything. So if you put in something else with no debuff, then it'll just be the same. It won't change. It's only because in this particular case, they've just picked a bullet that has an accuracy change on it. So what that means is that when the gun is empty, for purposes of this anyway, when the gun is empty, it acts as if it has that round inside. That's what it means, right, for the gun. So if you put SS197SR in, nothing changes on the stats. But if you put another round in, it will then show the stats for that. And this all comes back to like the zeroing thing, right? Like all the zeroing parameters are all set for the default bullet that fits with that weapon.
Yeah.
So if you're using a P90 or a 5.7, the zeroing is always for SS197SR, even if you're using a different bullet. And there's no way of changing it. So you just, if there's a big difference in speed, for example, if you're using a P90 with SB193, which is the subsonic round, which goes at like 1/3 the speed of some of the others, the default zeroing is still for SS197SR. So your bullets will drop a lot more than you would expect. So you zero it to 100 meters, but that's 100 meters for a supersonic round. So when you fire the subsonic round, it just like falls way short. It's always been an issue in Tarkov. And then shotguns are the other way, right? So shotguns are all got buckshot as their default zeroing, which is crazy because like who cares anyway about the buckshot zeroing? They should all be zeroed for slugs, in my opinion. So when you use a slug in them, buckshot falls off super fast. So when you fire at 100 meters zeroing with a slug, it's firing it as if you're trying to like, you know, paintball it over 100 meters with buckshot. And so the slug goes like way up into the sky. That's why you never, ever, ever use zeroing with slugs at all. And even with 50 meter zeroing, like super performance ends up going like, you know, you have to shoot them in the chest, hit them in the head, that kind of thing.
I've seen some clips of Tower using a shotgun with a scope and a slug, and you would literally like aim below, like at the target's crotch at distance and get a shooter point kill. I'm like, what kind of wizardry are you on, sir?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Which, by the way, to confirm, you know, it turns out, Giga, you may have hit the. Well, let's see. You're the human calculator. I'm sorry, you've been reduced to human calculator, but this is 3.75 MOA. I slap in, you know, I put the default round in. Nothing changes, so that looks correct, right? And then I put in SS190, so that goes from what is that? 3.75 to 4.13.
3.75. I mean, I've used an actual calculator, right?
Oh, shh.
But it's it's 10%. It's 10%.
Yeah. All right. Mystery solved.
Mystery solved live on ScavTalk. There you are. So, anyway, long story short, VSG did something horrible to pistols. I don't know exactly what change it was. We didn't have it for long enough for me to figure out exactly what they'd done, but they've undone it along with all the other stuff. I do think like if any of these issues had been kind of isolated, I don't think they would necessarily have like rolled back the patch. But this was in tandem with obviously something that's like unlisted there, which is that everybody's frames, and especially on streets, were just absolutely demolished upon the introduction of this patch. No one really seems to know why that happened. But yeah, just like annihilated everyone's frames. So people were using, you know, supercomputer PCs and had like 40 FPS scoped on streets, which is just mad. So that combined with the pistols thing that everybody hated, I say like, most people hated it. I could say like a lot of even the people who were sympathetic were like, I can see where they're going with this, but they have done it wrong. You know? So it's like the pistols thing, the streets frames thing, and I think Shoreline and maybe Lighthouse were pretty bad as well. They did something so that frames were just disgusting. And then the armor thing, which is just like not fixed and is just still not really, as they wanted. They ended up like rolling the whole thing back. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. And they said, we're gonna change it with community feedback or whatever. So I threw my hat in the ring, and I'm sure other people will be talking to them and just seeing what they're gonna be looking at the community, seeing what people are saying, and figure it out. Like, we'll see, we'll see. So yeah, unceremoniously they rolled back the patch, and unfortunately that comes with it all of the other stuff, like some of the good stuff, like the rollback of class 2 to class 3 for some of those armors we talked about a minute ago. The left side shoulder scope, increase, which has come back again, which is actually quite good. And then we've also, I think, because there was like a really significant decrease in the number of scavs at one point, but scavs seem to have come back too. Like, I'm not sure exactly how far they've rolled back to, or like what changes they made as well with the rollback, because like obviously snow went, but that didn't coincide with the patch, because when they first rolled the patch out, the snow was still there, and then they turned the snow off, and now we've rolled back, but the snow's obviously still off. So not 100% sure exactly the parameters of their rollback, but it has indeed been rolled back, which was definitely a good thing, because it was kind of scuffed. It was kind of scuffed for multiple reasons, which is not really great. Now, I guess we should talk about like probably the most controversial part of the patch, being that they updated. Rather, they were going to basically like add some ways of doing things. Like, what's the line actually say? Can you read it out?
In the near future, the in-game stash expansion and access to the practice co-op mode will become available for purchase in the profile page on the official Escape from Tarkov website. Line 2, purchase of additional stash lines will be available regardless of game edition. Line 3, purchasing access to the practice co-op mode will be available for all editions. For Edge of Darkness owners, the ability to play in practice co-op mode is available by default.
Yeah. So every single person under the sun shouted microtransactions in Tarkov. and the the sort of semi-chaos ensued. I mean, it was, what I found quite funny is that originally it was just like, that information came out and people were talking about it. And some guys in my Discord were talking about it as well, and like pointed towards a Reddit thread where it was being discussed. And Reddit was actually quite reasonable and level-headed about the whole topic, which I was amazed at. And it was mainly Twitter that was blowing up. But then Nikita ended up actually putting a post on Reddit being like, we want to add purchasable options, remove DoD, and some need to go back for example, co-op offline. Like, yeah, kind of. Like it needed to reappear in the player base in some fashion, because there's no way to actually get access to it anymore. Whether it needed to be like purchasable per se is up for debate. But they did a micro patch the other day, which people could be confused about what that was for, but they did it kind of in tandem with the website update. And I believe it was basically just linking together, like when you go and pay for co-op offline, which is $10, I believe. When you go and pay for co-op offline, it then links to your actual Tarkov account, and you can go and play co-op offline straight away once you've paid for it. I'm pretty sure that's all that little patch was for. I mean, I think it's I'm not sure if I really mind either which way. Like $10 for co-op offline, okay. Like I kind of wish that they'd allowed, like the best situation was just them to allow everybody to use it, right? That would be the best situation, in my opinion. I don't think they necessarily needed to monetize it, honestly, because it's like it's kind of a niche feature, and like you don't really want new players to feel like they have to buy it. I think like the middle ground for me would have been put the purchase option out there, but make it so that EOD players can take in new players. Because right now, if not everybody has EOD,
right? Yeah,
or have purchased the thing, you can't all play co-op offline together. Whereas I wish that like you could have like one EOD person who could bring in,
but
multiple standard people or whatever. I know that that's less money. I understand about that. But like, but I feel that would have been fairer. Like, and you could still buy it if you wanted to, because that would allow like, because right now it's basically saying like, this is like a testing mode, which is fine, and that's that's okay. But like, who's gonna pay? But I'm not even sure who's gonna pay for that. Like, maybe some people will, but it seems a bit of a weird thing because everybody who's like testing whatever almost certainly has an EOD account anyway. And then new players, like, do you want to spend like $10 immediately to be able to play offline with a friend?
Maybe.
Like, you've just bought the game. Like, maybe I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I think what's more interesting is the competition. Like, I don't think their product is actually very good because there's no progression, and the like features you can select for it right now are like very limited.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
better than it used to be, but it's okay.
whereas there's this particular like subsection of SP Tarkov. It's like not affiliated with official, but it's this sort of like rogue online co-op thing that's been in development that is basically more features, and you know, has like a community and stuff. Like, it's actually very interesting and like kind of interest. Yeah, I don't know, it's just very interesting. Like, I haven't really looked that much into it, but I've looked a little into it. um
Yeah.
so like, you know, in some ways I feel like they kind of need like to like they have a little bit of competition. I think for the average person it's just going to be way easier to pay $10, but like for some of the more um you know, the more enthusiast or the more, you know, budget conscious people, there is an alternative that I think is a better product, weirdly enough. And
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of need to step up their game. Like, for $10, I don't really like the kind of the gravity part too is like you don't progress. So like if you want to practice, say, uh some type of quest, you know, colleagues, right? Colleagues Part 1. Is that the one where you got to visit all the places in Shoreline?
Maybe it's 2. I can't remember.
Okay, either which way, you know,
Yeah.
first you got to like get your online account progress to that point and then practice it. And then when you're practicing it, you're only practicing against AI. Like, there's no like, you know, PMC simulation, you know. So it's like not really like
Yeah.
as online. And then anything you do there, you don't really get to keep. Like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. And then you can't like change the weather. You can like randomize the weather, I think. Or maybe you can change the weather.
You can set it now.
Yes, it's offline you can't, but co-op offline you can.
Yeah. Normal offline is annoying because it like actually runs on your own PC and you can't do co-op offline
Now I got
on
it.
your own,
Yeah, it's
which is a pain. I really wish you could. I wish you could do co-op offline. Like, well, I wish you could do BSC servers offline by yourself.
okay. So this is the
I wish
this
you
is
could
the
do that.
thing. This is the thing. Are bosses always 100% in co-op mode?
Yes, there's no only if you turn them on,
Well, you
but
can't.
there's no like variable.
You can't
Wait, you
not
can't.
turn
Why?
them on.
Really?
Yeah, when I toggle
I'm
it,
sure you.
auto checks enable bosses. I think they, but is it 100% or is it just chance
Yeah.
based?
So bosses are either off completely or 100%.
Okay.
So there's none of the like online, you know, are they actually like there or not kind of thing. It's like you know whether they're in the raid or not
Okay.
by checking that box or not.
So you can't change the weather and stuff. Okay. As
So it's
online.
it's better, right? It's better than it used to be for sure.
Yeah.
You can spawn all in one place. You can disable energy and hydration. Although it doesn't get rid of it from stims, which is annoying.
Anyways,
But it's kind of a moot point. But yeah, like I don't know. I just feel like they could have relaxed the criteria a little bit. Like, how many people are legitimately playing co-op offline? Like, it can't be many
and
people.
that too, I just feel like it's so niche. Like, you're gonna only use it a handful of times. I mean, I could be wrong, but anyways, I don't know if it's gonna come down to the buyer if they see the value in it. I
Yeah,
think they could stand to put a little bit more work into it. Like, it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess to do like an offline progression would be a nightmare because then you'd have to have two stashes and one have to be saved locally, and you have to like come up with a UI to like switch or something. You know, I don't know. That's probably a very difficult thing to solve. But anyways, point being, you could buy it for $10 if you want.
Yeah, exactly. And then they said, or Nikita said, so they are going to be adding this stash expansion for every version available up to 28 additional lines. So it sounds like it's not like you can even like buy the stash space up to EOD like you could now. It's like EOD can buy more stash space as well up to 28 lines, which is like another 280 slots, which I think like how much do you get for a standard account? Account space. Let me just see. Not sure if I can tell straight off the bat. I think it might be around that though. I think it might be like the amount that you can get in a standard account.
Yeah,
which is pretty insane. So you're gonna have like
60.
a lot of space. It's gonna be a lot of space.
Let's see. Tarkov,
yeah, I guess 28 lines is not actually that much, is it?
Space.
I literally just tried to look it up myself, but I failed with a 2-second Google.
Wiki.
So yeah, that's gonna be basic stash 10 by 28.
Yeah. So it is a standard.
It is. It's a standard. You can buy a whole standard account stash.
Okay, here I got it right here. You can't see it because formatting. Can I fix that real quick? There we go. So standard is 10/28. Left behind is 10/38. Prepare is 10/48, and then Edge of Darkness is 10/68.
Yeah. So prepare for escape, which is 10/48. That's like the second top package, the one just below EOD. I'm pretty sure you can still buy that. And with that one, I'm pretty sure you get the trader rep too. So you can still, because somebody asked a question in chat about whether you could buy trader rep, and I don't think you can explicitly, but like you can still buy Left Behind.
Not yet. Wait till they sell individual trader rep package.
0.01, $10 for 0.01. Like Jaeger IRL. Yeah. But then they did say, so he did say about stash expansions, later you'll have an option to earn the lines in game 2 without spending any money. So I don't know what that means. Like if you earn them in the game.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's neat.
Yeah. Is that a bit like the stash upgrade? Because
maybe
for the stash upgrade, like obviously you can't get bigger than stash 4. So with EOD, you already start with it. It just means that you can't earn it. So you wouldn't earn it on top. I guess it would be the same thing. You just wouldn't be rewarded with it if you've already paid for it, I suppose. Anyway, like I don't think it matters enough at this point. Like we already have such big disparity in stashes between standard and EOD that I actually don't think that paying for more stash space makes any more difference. Like we're already there, I think. If everybody had the same account and then you were suddenly allowed people to buy stash space, that would probably give more uproar. But like given that standard and EOD have existed into the mists of time for Tarkov, I think that we're going from, rather than going from 0 to 1, we're going from 1 to 1.01.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or whatever. And it's like, yeah, some standard people can like pay less than they would have to upgrade it to EOD, but they can buy like a bit more stash space if they want. I don't know. I'm just not really that fussed about it. I think it's fine. Early unlock to clothing, but I guess again you'll be able to unlock that stuff in the game as well if you want to. And as he said, ability to play offline co-op, which they've already rolled out for $10. So yeah, I mean, there's like one reply that he made in the comments, which was it's gonna be the same clothing that they have in games. There's gonna be nothing stupid. So
yeah,
it's all gonna be military stuff. It's not like I actually don't think it's gonna be anything different than Ragman's services. Which again is another thing that makes you think, they're not even putting in, they're just like paying for early access to like stuff that's already in the game.
Yeah.
Which does feel a little bit lazy to me, rather than like, oh, we're not even, we're gonna now charge for this stuff.
Lazy.
we're not even gonna work on any new clothing or anything like that. You can just pay for it now. I mean, it's like it's whatever, right? If people want to pay for it, then like fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really bothered about it. I mean, like there's like a little bit of, but not really. I mean, is it really gonna be that much to like day one of the wipe? Some USEX got on the all black and is like sitting in the dark corner because he paid $10. Am I gonna be like, yeah, probably a tiny micro bit, but like it's nothing like some of these, like Russ has actually kind of an insane issue with skins, just kind of a fuzz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's like these, like they have all these like colorful skins and like these designs or whatever. But then there's like a handful of them that are like themed, like forest camo, and it's like literally like camouflage green forest, all or like the late tier stuff. So like once you get there, then you spray paint it all green, and now you're like just completely blended in with the bush, and it's like super meta, and people are like, they've actually like kind of gone insane with some of the stuff, because there's like doors that like have windows that you can see. Like historically all the doors were solid, but now there's like these windows in certain doors, and it's a DLC, so you can't like, because they have like this crafting system with like Steam Marketplace, but now you have to buy it direct DLC, and so it's like $30 or whatever, and it's like kind of like one of those like must have try hard skins that you gotta own. But anyways, I don't think there's gonna be anything remotely like that in Tarkov.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the same. I'm not really fussed about it. That like it just kind of feels like this has kind of always been the thing, and like we've kind of speculated that like even Nikita says here the game's been running for 8 years without any additional flow. Just buy and play forever. Pretty unique situation for games such as EFT. And it's like, yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree. It's like, and we've said EFT kind of feels like a live service game that's in beta, which describes a lot of live service games nowadays. So I don't know, and I don't know if I don't know their finances. I don't know what it's like to run a company and run a studio and develop a game for 8 years. I don't know if they need the money, whatever. I don't really, I don't know. Yeah, I saw someone like posted like their financial report for, they profited $1 million or something. It's like I don't know, dude. Okay, I mean, I really don't know. So if
it's hard to glean anything from those things, really.
Yeah, because I don't know. I'm so far. It's not even worth me speculating. So if they say that he needs the money, they need the money, which I think it makes sense. 8 years, you buy the game once. I paid what, $150. Yeah. You paid $150.
Yeah,
we've gotten how many years? 5, 4, 6, 7. Like that's
like a lot of use out of it. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like Tarkov's one of those games that does actually justify the fact that the price is so high because of how it's continuously under development. But as you say, right, it's like it's a weird business model. Like, yeah, you get a big amount up front, but now a lot of the people have already paid for it. So now what?
Yeah.
And like I think their plan has changed too, right? They originally intended it to be like I don't want to be like to defend them or anything, but like they wanted to make the game, then take the money from that game and then invest it in a new game. Like God knows whether they actually intend to make this single player thing, Russia 2028, at any point. I have no idea. Like maybe they've just decided not to. Like Nikita himself, in various different interviews over the last like 3 years, has gone from we just want to be finished and move on to like we're going to be here, we're making the game, whatever, right? Like sort of embracing the live service thing, especially recently. Like, yeah, they want to push out 1.0, but Nikita sounded very like upbeat, and I know things are they've worked out with patch 14 and stuff, so that really helped. But like, yeah, just this whole tone about it. Like they've got Arena, which is its own, like that's got its own issues, whatever. But like the team's huge as well. They probably spend like way more money now than they used to. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, just because the team's got so much bigger, and it's just expensive to run a big an organization like that, rather than when you've got like 20 dudes. They're probably like 10 times that or whatever. So I kind of get it. And then I wonder just how much revenue they actually got from Arena, because most people already have EOD, right? So it's like how many people actually are then going to buy Arena? Like some people did just skip the queue.
Yeah, there's that.
They had that fiasco, but like I wonder how much it actually brought in. Like realistically, I don't really know. And then the format's been a bit strange, and they've got to do a lot of updates to it and that kind of thing. And so it's not really like blown up into this like new format that everyone's playing, right? It's like not really how it's gone. So yeah, and I don't really mind. I don't really mind too much. I think it's one of those weird things. Like people talk all the time about like, oh, when's the game gonna be finished and blah blah. Like I kind of worry more for when the game's like
gonna be finished.
Yeah, because it's just like once it's 1.0, like I'm like part of the magic of the game is like we've got this coming and that coming. Like you always feel like you're on the conveyor belt of like things coming in the future. But when they go like, right, this is it, It's like, oh, okay. It'll just feel weird, you know. Like I don't know they said there's DLC and stuff, so I think they'll keep trying to. They've moved more and more towards the live service model as time's gone on. Actually, in many ways, like they got to get off the treadmill of beta and move it onto live service instead, and sort of remonetize somehow. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of surprised how many people were like upset. Like some people were like really upset about the clothing unlock stuff, which I don't know. I didn't really get. I mean, I guess that's just like something that they value a lot is like this idea that you can't spend money to get cosmetics. You have to work for it. Which sure, I guess it just for me, I just don't. It doesn't really bother me. Like I'm usually the type of person like when I play like these types of games, it's like, okay, what can I? It's like a great thing if like they're selling cosmetics, and then I can like play the game for free. Which in this case,
and not buy them.
That's like a great thing for me. So I don't know. To me, it's like I'm not really bothered by it, but I kind of feel the same way. It's just like I feel like it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah, I kind of get it if it's like really end game achievement stuff. I wonder if there could be. I don't know whether that'd be more annoying or not. Like if you had some cosmetics that were like only purchasable, some things that were only farmable in the game. I don't know whether that would be better or worse.
That would probably
really
annoy more people, I would imagine.
Yeah, or you can only get you can only pay for like a subset of the stuff. Maybe the things that come with like level or whatever. Not like Killa tracksuit or whatever else. Some of the ones that are like really high end achievements. You want to make sure that when you see somebody or like when somebody sees you with that thing, that they know that you did the work. Like just being able to get, the puffy jacket or whatever, which is just a level based thing. That's kind of whatever. Because I guess you could also know, I suppose, whether that person got it properly or not based on their level, or they just avoided like paying the rubles for it. But there's nothing like in it. There's nothing like intrinsically difficult about that. So I wouldn't mind that you couldn't buy any of the quest ones.
Yeah.
And that you could only buy like the level locked ones because for me that would feel like kind of fair. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't really care.
I'm looking at.
I know some people do though.
I'm looking at here and I'm thinking, man, you could just like convert the ruble ratio. Like this fast response bear shirt level 20 is 500,000 rubles. You could just convert it to like $5.
You're like RMT.
Yeah. This
is what BSG decides is the ruble rate to IRL.
$28 for a level 45 bear Zalson top. Yeah. It's RMT. BSG are cornering the market. No.
Exactly.
Yeah, once they start selling like, guns and kits, then I'll have something. But per Nikita, he said that's not going to happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, he did say that. He said no in-game money, items, weapons, blah blah. Like there have been a few conversations about like legitimate good faith conversations as well. To be fair, about like can you get rid of RMT by introducing your own your own RMT by introducing your own RMT shop? Could you do the services that are being sold out in the market and do them yourself and undermine RMT and solve it that way? I think the issue is. My take on that is that if you do it in like a reasonable and measured way and you only sell like lower tier stuff like starter gear and new player things, whatever, then there's still a marketplace for people to sell BP and classics plates and all the stuff that BSG probably won't want to sell themselves. And if they do go down the route of selling it themselves, then it legitimizes the behavior. You probably get more players engaging with it because now it's like there's no risk of getting banned for doing it, so more people will be, will want to go and do that thing, and then it kind of breaks the progression of the game, and then the game's dead. So I just don't think there's a way that you can do it that fixes. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a way you could do it that fixes the RMT problem, because you either have to do it all, or it's not worth doing at all.
Yeah, I think if you do it all, then you compromise the integrity of your game. Like it's now,
especially on like Tarkov. Yeah,
you throw money at the game. That's what it becomes, and I don't think that's what they want. And presumably if you're going to go all in, like you're going to corner the market, you're going to have the amount of work the RMTers have to put in versus BSG. They just, you know, type in pixels or, you know, type, they don't have to do any work, you know, they just they have to do some startup to make a UI or whatever. And from there, it's like, yeah. I mean, could you imagine? It's just like you go on their website, it's like a flea market, and it's just, you just type in whatever you want, and it gives you a dollar value. Like you build a kit out, a preset.
And you just buy and it appears on your stuff. And you're like, off we go.
Sounds awful.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good. So yeah, I just don't think you can fix it like that.
And there was just the last thing, there were some people that were like upset via principle, like because Nikita has said that they're never going to do microtransactions, and then suddenly there's microtransactions, you know, which I kind of get that, the principle part, but like at the same time, I just feel like if the game was going to be going on for this long, it just feels kind of inevitable that they're going to have to do something. Like we thought it was going to be DLCs, but like even then there's like questions about that. And I imagine the bulk of their sales was EOD, which, you know, they put away the EOD, which I thought that way they could package out individual stuff like the DLCs, but looks like they took a step further and now they're packaging out, you know, stash space and go up offline, which, you know, whatever. So I mean, I kind of see what they're saying, but at the same time, I just feel like this was like the inevitable outcome at some point. You know, they were gonna have to do something.
Yeah, I think
if
so.
we want to keep playing the game for another however many years.
Yeah, exactly. If we want to play the game for another 5 years, then yeah, I think we have to. But I think like the main concern that people have primarily is just about the slippery slope. Like, is this the beginning of all sorts of shenanigans? I don't think it is, but you know, you could see why people might be concerned about that. Like, I agree with you. I think that the situation has changed because the game's been going on for so long. Like, people are this video keeps floating up about Nikita talking like at some early I can't remember when is it? Is it like 2018 or something? And I was just like, 2018, but you know, not forgetting that it's 2024, right? And that's like 6 years ago. Like a lot has changed in 6 years. That I don't think they expected to still be working on the Tarkov project the way they are now, right? We're rapidly approaching the actual time for the game that they meant to make. Like, I don't know when they meant to make Russia 2028, but like 2028 is not actually that far away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they don't start, you know, if they don't start working on it soon, they're going to be releasing it in the past, which is, you know, so I don't even know if they have any plans to make this thing anymore. Who knows? I mean, that's pure speculation, but I don't know. Like, I feel like they've run the Tarkov thing out for longer than they expected, and that's why the plans have changed. And you know, people had to change their mind. Like, we shouldn't crucify them for it. I think it's fine. And yeah, it's like so far it's stash space, co-op offline, and some clothing that you can get in game yourself. Like, as a starting point, that's all right. You know, if it turns into like weapon skins that are all military realistic, whatever, and you can also get them in game for achievements and stuff, like, okay, that's fine. Like, so long as they continue to toe the line with sensible stuff and they don't take the piss, then I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, I hate slippery slope fallacies, and I do believe it is a fallacy. It's like, you know, it's like with the goat cheating video. It's like, don't watch the video, guys, or you'll become a cheater. No, what are you talking? Like, no. It's like, I don't know, dude. It's yeah. I'm not really concerned about it.
Yeah. So that was the patch basically, and the unpatch. So we're now back on 14.0.2 after the micro patch that allows you to buy co-op offline. So if you want to buy co-op offline, then you now can buy co-op offline for $10. I don't know what it is in Europe, because once you have, or already if you have EOD, you can't actually see what the price is. So somebody European would have to tell me what it is, but it's probably knowing the way that these things get priced, it's probably €10, you know, just F you to Europe in general. Probably just 1-to-1, despite that not being the case. But either which way, they've checked the other stuff that has changed. The boss spawn rates are up again, yet again. And I think they're now at 24%, which is quite good. And then the other thing, but just before we get into like the other stuff, should we just talk about the arena roadmap for a minute?
Yeah.
This literally came out this morning, because this is like just continuously parts of PSG's updates of whatever. So let me fetch it. Hold on. They just posted it before we started, actually. So they've got, it is €10. Somebody's like, oh, someone's just logged out and checked. It's actually just €10. That's like so sad to me, but anyway. So preliminary roadmap to Escape from Tarkov Arena 0.1.5 gameplay patch, end of Feb. This one is improvements to the ranked mode, preset tier system, and the ability to select a preset tier before matchmaking, which is quite intriguing. So this sort of solves, like, I know Veritas did a big video about like how to fix Arena and stuff. And there are ways that are like really cool, but I think that even he said, right, some of them are too radical to actually get implemented or whatever. But this, like, selecting a preset tier does fix that matchmaking thing of kits being, you know, crazy. So you have to decide like where you want to sit in the tier system first before you then can go and pick a kit, which just allows them to matchmake correctly. It's like the ordering, based on the structure they've got right now, the ordering is wrong, right? And they kind of hot fixed it by giving it an average of the last 5 raids, but they don't know what kit you're going to pick, so they were not able to matchmake you properly, because you could pick like a starter kit and then an end game kit and a starter kit, and it was all just messed up. So now you're gonna have to pick a kit first, and then a kit tier first, and then a kit out of that tier afterwards, which will help with the matchmaking. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it ends up working. But yeah, I mean, I still think the game structure should be changed, but whatever. You know, we're working with what we've been given. Preset system rework, complete rebalance, improvements to preset leveling. I don't know whether that will allow you to level like later presets using like 2 before and stuff like that, because that would be quite nice. Like having to use them one after the other, even if you hate them, is like a pain. Being able to play like a level 1 kit and level a level 3 kit would be kind of fun and stuff like that. And then they've got team limits on buying the same presets in a match. It doesn't say what it's going to be, but this was something that I thought probably was going to be necessary. Like, I personally think the limit should be 2. So you can have 2 of the same kit on each team, but no more. So that stops you from doing the thing that we saw in the first tournament, which was, you know, every single person running agent and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's better.
It doesn't say how many limits, though. It just says...
It doesn't. So we're not sure. It could be 1, could be 2, it could be 3. But yeah, I'm not sure. Hitbox and armor system from Escape from Tarkov. This is controversial.
Not surprised.
Lots of the people who play Arena and like a main Arena really don't want this.
Yeah.
As we know, it fundamentally changes the balance of the game. It increases the variability of the kills. I wonder whether, I mean, ultimately whether it'll end up being better for it, I don't honestly know. Like, it's just hard. It's so hard to know right now. In some ways, because it increases the variability of the kills, it actually makes it easier to balance. Because crappy low-level kits with like Quakemaker or whatever are like much more powerful now, and powerful kits with high pen ammo are like less valuable, right? Because the armor is so much smaller. So it kind of depends on the way you see it. But the knee-jerk reaction is for sure that this is going to be bad. And I think that in a competitive mode, it's so hard for me to say. In a competitive mode, it probably is, because you want this in an actual pure competitive sense, you want the skill cap to be as high as possible. And I do feel like increasing the variability of the kills and kind of increasing the randomness of the fights, which is sort of how the armor system works now, is not necessarily the best. But we'll just have to see. They're going to do it regardless, so we're just going to have to see. And then some improvements to custom lobbies. So configurable available presets. So I think that means you'll be able to like pick a selection of the presets, because that's how they did it in the first tourney. They didn't like release the rule set like publicly, because it was the first one and they didn't want to give anything away, because it was like the reveal, like kind of the reveal at the same time. But, you know, there was like a certain specific subset of presets that were actually picked for the tournament, and it wasn't like layered in particular. It was like, you know, which was the one? There's the one with the STM with AP, which is like low down in the ranking system, but it's actually relatively high in terms of power. So it was like that one plus like a load in class 3 and like 1 or 2 in class 4, that kind of thing. So you'll be able to like pick individual presets. This is for tournaments that have got their own like custom rules, I think. Or if you need to like ban a kit, then you can just like not have that included. I think that's what that'll be. Configurable character skill level, so everyone's at like 51 or whatever. Configurable number of rounds needed for victory. Because I think right now, like in the tournament, it was 7, and then at the minute, I think it's 5, and you can't change it at the moment. And pre-configurable team names. They're adding another location for team fight mode, which it's already in existence, but you can only play it in certain in certain modes at the moment. They're adding it in team fight and then some optimization. So that's what's coming hopefully by the end of February. Mid-spring, they're adding a new, so this one's the 0.1.6 content patch in mid-spring. There's going to be a new map called Block, a new game mode called Last Hero. I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what that almost sounds like a sort of mini battle royale mode. I don't know what that really entails. The unranked mode, which in my opinion they should have put like, well, tomorrow is better than next week. Yesterday would have been better than today. Like unranked just needs to come ASAP, in my opinion. Some quality of life stuff, clean up crew behavior improvements. Doesn't say what it is, so hard to know what that's going to be. Game client, anti-cheat. Oh, and this is the big one: synchronization of Escape from Tarkov and Arena game profiles. So I guess this is going to be the linkage where you can, move money and whatnot. Exactly what format that's going to take, I don't really know. I mean, using the systems right now, like if you are in a sensible ARP range, like you don't really need the cash. Like it doesn't necessarily help. So I don't really know how that's going to end up. What impact that's going to have, I'm not sure.
Like you grind unranked to get your cash up, and then play ranked with your cash to use the good kits.
Well, I don't know if you're even going to get cash for that. I'm not sure. No, as in just as in, like if you play ranked with the lower kits, like you have a 50-50 win rate, you still make money because the lower kits are kind of cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So until you get later on, like the money's not really a problem. So like moving money into Arena isn't really a big issue. I don't know whether you'll be able to move money back out.
I see. Yeah, I don't know.
Just like because people were speculating that you'd be able to like bring tons of money and gear over from the base game into Arena and like dominate everybody, but like it's not really how Arena works. So I just don't know if it's even like, do you need to bring rubles over? Like, unless you're losing a lot and like losing every match or whatever, then I'm not really sure. And the implementation of overtime in team fight, whatever that exactly means, I'm not sure. Then there's the midsummer one, preset customization, ability to modify equipment presets and the weapons in them, which is pretty cool. Another location, another game mode, technical functions, quality of life, custom lobby improvements, match history, player profiles, and achievements. So like that's just very like whatever, like nebulous stuff that's coming. So I don't know. We'll see. I've like not really played much Arena recently because of the way that the system kind of works, and also for me, it just still takes a bit too long to get in and get a match. And I just kind of want to play unranked. Like I don't really want to be matched with people. I don't care about my rank so much. I just want to play. I just want to play like deathmatch or something and just like run around and shoot. Like I don't need a highly structured Arena style gameplay for my enjoyment, right? Like I'm going to play Tarkov to play it like seriously. I just want to like run around and shoot stuff in Arena. So when they add it unranked, and hopefully the cycle could be a bit quicker because there's less matching and blah blah. Hopefully that'll be a bit better. But they're playing it as a solo. Like the matching time's quite long, and then with the cancellations and getting in, loading in, and then the announcer and all this stuff, like it just takes a bit too long.
They should have like a free for all mode that's like, maybe it runs for like 15, 20, 30 minutes, and like if someone disconnects, the lobby opens up, and then you just connect in and you spawn in, and you just you die, your screen goes black for a few minutes, and then comes back up and you respawn. Just mindlessly shoot things. That would be I'm sure a lot of people like that because then the queue times would probably be pretty low.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Like it's funny, right? Like maybe I'll play a bit more Arena once I've got to 42. I'm not sure. I'm at 40. Yeah, 40 right now. So like I'm getting closer. But yeah, I just like don't feel super compelled at the minute to go and grind that or whatever. And like playing it solo as well. It's like it's kind of fun. It is kind of fun. But yeah, as I said, it's just not quite as fast paced. Like I originally had the intention of starting and ending streams with it.
Oh yeah.
But it's like the last time I tried to end a stream with it, it took like 15 minutes to actually go through and play like a full match. 15, 20 minutes. Like once I was loading the game, queuing in, picking the kits, getting in, all that stuff. I don't know. Like, yeah, we'll see.
I still haven't played it.
I don't think you're missing out on too much yet, right? Like if you've seen the way it plays, like that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
And like the progression system, I don't find that compelling. It'd be nice if you can change bits of your presets and stuff. That'll be cool. I'll enjoy that. Because right now it feels like, yeah, it's kind of static and the leveling system is very linear and very grindy. And I just don't really want to do lots of grind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't have that much time just to grind stuff. Like otherwise I'd stream the main game longer, honestly. Like if I had that time, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like one of those weird things where it's like, okay, well, if I'm playing this, then I'm not playing that. It's like an opportunity cost thing. So I definitely don't have infinite time just to like play or whatever. Like it'd be a different story if I was just free, you know, all evening or whatever to do whatever. But like I'm just so busy, it makes it kind of hard. So I think that's the basic Tarkov stuff. What do you want to do? Do you want to carry on talking Tarkov? Do you want to talk bosses or and the file stuff, or do you want to talk? Do you want to take a break from Tarkov for a second and move over to GrayZone? Because we've been saying we're going to talk about GrayZone for ages.
Yeah, we could talk about it. We could do that,
and then we can swap back to like your the boss hunting experience, and then talk a bit about the file at the end, maybe.
Yeah. So GrayZone. Sure, people are vaguely familiar with it, but it's from Madfinger Game Studio, who previously worked on mobile titles. But don't let that worry you, because the dev team themselves are very experienced in the industry, been around for a while, and a lot of their mobile games are pretty popular, from what I've understood. Now,
I have heard that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I said I've heard that as well, honestly. And I think they said that they've got some like PC people in, right?
Yeah.
Who are like developers for actual, or have got a lot experience developing like PC titles previously. So
yeah. So yeah, I think the studio looks pretty good. And so essentially they, through some form or another, they wanted to make this type of like realistic military game, and they hired a person who like essentially worked as a PMC, private military personnel or whatever, who like got into the game and then realized this is like a young man's game. And then like saw some stuff that like, kind of scarred them for life, and like, okay, it's time to get out. And so they like written some books and whatnot. But anyways, they're using him as like a resource. And so he's like familiar with like the private militarized, industrial complex or whatever. And it's really interesting because I've never really thought about this before, but it makes perfect sense. Like they're like guns for hire. And so you like have really no loyalty. Like, like whereas like a UN, you may be like fighting for like a cause or like, a certain morale. And then like maybe a nation's army is fighting for like a flag. But the people like this are fighting, PMCs are fighting for money, like they really don't.
yeah,
it's a gray zone, you could say. It's not really black and white. So, which is, I've never really thought about that, but like it makes perfect sense. And it's kind of the perfect setting for a game like a military game, like it'd be kind of weird to like play a very like hyper nationalized video game. I mean, we kind of have a little bit of that, but like there's been some pretty like shout outs to oh crap, what is that one game called? Now I can't remember. I have to look this up because this game is insanely good. Let's see. It's a third person military shooter, but it's like very story driven, and
is it an old one?
it's an older one, yes. Let's see. I'm sorry, I have to look this up because it actually got removed from Steam recently, which a lot of people were upset about.
Oh,
Let's see if I can't just Google search it real quick.
One thing while you're searching, one thing that's interesting about the PMCs thing in this one is that, like, yeah, Tarkov is PMCs as well,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't really do PMC things in Tarkov, right? Because like we're like PMCs that are being cut off, and then we're playing sort of like survival, kind of like Tarkov's not really a survival game, but you know what I mean, right? It's like survivally looter shootery type, right? You're not a gun for hire anymore. You're trying to just like not die in the land of Tarkov. So we don't really do, even though we are PMCs, that's kind of more of our background. Rather than in GrayZone where it's like you are a PMC, you are the gun for hire in that point. Like you're doing the thing that I guess Tarkov dudes were doing before. Because like, if you were a USEC in the Tarkov universe previously, you would have been working for like Terror Group, for example. So you'd be doing like Terror Group stuff. And so that's kind of what these guys are doing. This is like Tarkov before the fall, kind of the vibe, I think.
Yes. Found it, by the way. Spec Ops The Line. Fantastic game. If you get your hands on it, play it. It's really good. It's like kind of like tricks you. Like you think you're playing like a generic military shooter game, but then it really like messes with your psyche and like it really makes you think about deep shit. It's a great game. So yeah, it's kind of the PMC is kind of like the perfect setting because now you're and it works in Tarkov because you're like getting rubles and stuff, progressing. Like it makes sense, right? So let me just pull up my little document here, and I'll talk about some of the features. Now, one thing I will say is if you're really interested in this game, you need to go check out some of the interviews. There's some online by the actual studio that are like private. Like there was one with like I think it was the quest designer who was like because this studio is based in, I think it's based in the Czech Republic. I'm not sure.
I think they are, yeah.
And the quest designer, like the head, I think he was like the head quest designer, but he was like basically a theater kid. And he plays video games, of course, but he was like really into theater. And then he was like, he was being interviewed by someone at the studio, and they were like, so yeah, how much do you know about like military stuff? And he was like, absolutely nothing. But he was like, yeah, I've gotten into it, I like it, like it's cool stuff, this and the other. But he's like basically just a kid that loves to like live action role play. It's kind of funny. So yeah, that was the other thing I was to say. So if you want to check out some of their interviews, if another really good one is from, I think it's pronounced Relo Gaming, who does like Tarkov content as well. But they recently I think they previously started doing a lot of shorts, or were doing a lot of shorts, but now they're doing more long form stuff. And I watched a few of their long form stuff. It's very good actually. Like shout outs to Relo Gaming. You should definitely check out. He's got like a couple different Ground Zero videos, specifically an interview with the developer, with tons of details. So like highly recommend checking that out, which some of the stuff is going to be sourced from that. So let's start with the lore/story teaser. It says here, we are working with a military advisor to create quests that prioritize realism and logic, no mundane item hunts or set events. Okay, speak my language was what I'm hearing. Branching decisions affecting reputation with the traders, with the characters, and unlock new possibilities, weapons, and gear. There is a story to engage with if you want. So the game is going to be there's going to be PvP, PvE. However, there's two separate servers. There's one that's exclusively PvE, and then one that's like inclusively PvE, PvP, right? And there's like factions, and you got AI, and I'll talk about that a bit more. But just kind of jumping around here. They say that they're pretty happy with the person that they're working with. I think this is might be a different one, but anyway, says he's pretty happy with the realism game. Says there's some compromises, but he's overall pretty happy. Toughest part of the job was learning all the old World War II weapons to do mocap with them. Animations are custom, etc. Favorite thing about GrayZone Warfare is that there's no hand holding. Fell out of love with the big RPGs when he started putting quest markers everywhere. I think this is from the Relo Gaming interview. This is the like studio lead, maybe possibly I forget, but forcing players to look at their environments carefully, paying attention to briefings, searching the environment. Previous games they had a lot of control over quests, player experience, but because of the living world aspect of the game, as the writers have much less control, his job is made really difficult. Had to re-educate himself on for this challenging task. He really likes it. The game will be in Arc's first drops. Ton of stuff will be added over time. So it's a big open, big world. It's technically an extraction shooter, but kind of not really. But you extract and infill via helicopter, I believe, and you could stay as long as you want. Right. So it's kind of like the cycle that we talked about.
Which is super cool because it means that there's no like base like in the cycle, and there's no base like in Tarkov as a stash. So you're always in the game, which is great. So you go from like the main base, and then you go to one of the infills, like you get the helicopter flies you there, and then I don't know whether you can even just like go to another pad as an exfil. I don't really know exactly how you call that, or whether it's like set already. But yeah, as they said, you can stay for as long as you like, and like the way that the servers are designed, as far as I understand, is that I think it's like because there's 3 PMC factions and there's one in each corner. It's like a triangle map. And then it's like 8 people in each faction. So there's like 24 players on the server. So you might not see people for a while. I think it's going to feel more like DayZ like in some ways than Tarkov like. And most of the focus is on the PvE, not on the PvP, which is like super cool. So like I think it was even hints. I don't know whether this is going to be the case 1.0, but there's even hints of like you could find more like LZs. So if you find like another landing zone that like gets added to your map, maybe you can like use that for infills in the future and maybe exfil out of that and stuff. So like as you sort of expand through the map, you kind of uncover stuff and they get like added to your map as you go, which is really cool. Like that's a cool thing that I would love. I love that sort of progression. You feel like you're exploring and like finding stuff, and then it's like marked on your map. Like that feels really, really good to do, which is sick.
Yeah, it says here you can either walk to points of interest or fly a little bird to landing zones that you have previously discovered. So I guess like as you discover the map and locations, you'll like be able to traverse further, and then you can also choose your own landing zone, which is pretty neat. And I think, as you said, yeah, like you have those 3 different faction bases, and you can like, I think you can visit them or you can start there or something, but like that's like where you store stuff, but it can't be like raided or anything like that. So, you know, you don't have to worry about that type of gameplay. Just trying to skip around here because there's just a lot of notes. Let's see. So story is influenced by Roadside Picnic, and which is what the movie Stalker is based off of, and the movie Stalker is based off the video game Stalker is based off the movie Stalker, and essentially it just has to do with like this stalker. Yeah, it's kind of the main point is like there's like this zone that's, you know, off limits, exclusion zone, right? And it's, you know, and I don't think there might be possible aliens, like, you know, stuff like this, but that's kind of more the fictional stalker video game stuff, my understanding.
Yeah, I've actually not read the book, I've not seen the film, and I've not played Stalker.
I played
either,
a little bit Stalker,
which is like I should at some point. I really should. It's like on the bucket list.
Yeah, but I think that's the main thing. Is like there's a zone that's like off limits. You know, it's like kind of like how Tarkov. You know, it's a Tarkov, something that's gone awry, and this zone is like off limits, and it's not friendly to people, and there's military stuff going on. I think that's the general idea. So Ground Zero is the center of the map. It's extremely deadly. The storyline, player choices, branching quest trees. They want a living world where players can make impact. Bandit camps that can be taken over. All AI on the map are bad guys or criminals, military dictators or bandits. If you watch AI, they will be doing things for a faction, not just wandering circles or standing there. Some will immediately attack you. Some will wait and only attack if you don't obey their commands or enter their secure locations. The PMC groups are identical, just with different markings and logos. since the map contains 16 of each PMC group at a time, some other players you encounter will be friendly. And there isn't.
Oh, it's 16. Okay, that's more than I thought. I thought it was 8. But yeah,
There is an interesting
16
bit
then.
about like factions, and it might be laid down here later in the notes. Yeah. But anyways, the oh here we go. Identification friend or foe will be a big part of the game. It won't be easy to tell if the other PMC are your faction or not. You have to make a decision for yourself. Don't be trigger happy. Karma system will have major penalties for killing your own faction. If you kill a member of your own faction, they will have the option to forgive you in game, or if they know that it was deliberate, they can report you to your faction. Gain enough reports, and you'll be kicked out of your faction, become rogue. Don't want friendly fire to be something you need to gain anything in the game, so still investigating how to become rogue. Want players to think about pulling the trigger, which sounds pretty cool to me. It's kind of like what I want with like this whole karma PMC thing. That's like, it's kind of like this idea I talked about in Rust a lot, where Rust is a survival game, every man for himself. However, two heads are better than one, so
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where you're surviving, you build a base, and then you have neighbors. You don't really want to be a dick to your neighbor. I mean, you can do that, but now you're going to be at odds, and like you guys gotta have to live next to each other, so like it's kind of in both of your best individual interests to work together, or at least be friendly. It's like sometimes like
at least leave each other alone.
Yeah. Which I quite like. I like a bit of that. Sometimes there's scenarios where like you may have a common enemy. Maybe you and your neighbor's cool, but like this other neighbor is a dick, so you and him want to get revenge on this dick neighbor and evict him, basically. I quite like that, and it's like this little like weird. I mean, not really weird, but sort of like this social element injected into the multiplayer video game. It's not quite like these like social deduction games, but it has that same sort of vibe where it's like, I have to think about my actions and the consequences in a social setting, how this will ripple effect. If I betray this guy, he may hold a grudge against me, and he may door camp me for like the next 5 hours, and that's going to be really annoying. You know what I mean? So you have to really think about these things. I like that a lot, and I was really hoping to be something like that in Tarkov at some point. But anyways, with GrayZone, it sounds like they're thinking about that same sort of idea, and even introducing this sort of like, you there's this in-game punishment where like now you lose this faction privilege, and now you're sort of rogue, which is, I don't know, it could be pretty interesting if they can do it right, I would say.
Yeah, I think the main difference between, because everyone's really concerned if they ever do put PMC karma into Tarkov, which I fully understand why. Because like Tarkov's like PvPvE, right? Like,
right.
You don't play Tarkov to fight scavs.
Not really.
Like, this is not what we play. It's mainly a PvP game. Whereas like GrayZone has said they're like PvE first and foremost, and then the extra P is there as a possibility, but like they have said that you won't get, there are no tasks in the game that will require you to kill another player. Like in Tarkov, you have to kill lots of people for all sorts of tasks, right? And so that would be really annoying because it's kind of then at odds with what your mission is. You know what I mean? And it's also hard to identify people. Whereas in GrayZone, it's like, well, that's not your mission anyway. So now it really is your decision as to whether you kill them or not. And I think the idea is, especially after listening to, the ex-PMC dude talking, because I did watch that interview and it is very interesting, about how we've got these 3 PMC factions that are all like working for the same ends, but your missions don't necessarily like cross over. So you're not really enemies per se. But you also don't want to end up bumping into each other. Otherwise, you may end up in like a messy conflict. The only thing that concerns me about it a little bit is, again, like, will we have the tools to, because they've said, oh yeah, it's going to be really hard to tell. And it's like, it depends on what like the penalties are. I just don't know how that's going to feel when you play, whether it's going to be like, you do make a mistake, and like who realistically online, who is going to forgive you if you are just some random guy? Like, they're just going to punish you, right? So will it end up being that like no PMCs ever kill each other, a bit the way like Scav Karma works now? So it's one of those weird things. It'll be fascinating to see how the emergent gameplay actually works for that, and whether that, like, maybe that will make sense. Maybe it will be okay because of the PvE focus rather than the PvP focused like in Tarkov. So maybe it'll end up being all right. But I could just sort of like, I could see a few different ways that it could go. One of them being that like PvP just never happens because you never know if they're on your own faction or not. So it's just like never worth pulling the trigger like for their gear or whatever because the faction rep. Again, it depends on like how much faction rep is worth, how hard it is to get, how easy it is to lose, how much that is against like the gear. You know, if the gear is like super valuable and faction rep is easy to get, then you're going to be more incentivized to PvP. So it really depends on how they balance it. Like honestly, that's really going to change how people do it. Right? People don't want to lose scav. Like people who know how scav rep works now and want to get to 6, don't ever kill any scavs ever.
Yeah.
Because of how that system works. But if scav rep was, you know, if it was scaled differently and loot was more scarce in Tarkov and rubles were more scarce, people would probably kill scavs more often. But right now they don't because money's fairly easy to get and scav rep is kind of annoying to get, honestly. And you lose 10 times more for a kill than you get for, you know, a successful extract or something. You actually lose 3 times more than for, you know, an actually legitimate kill most of the time. So like you kill 3 rogue scavs and then kill 1, you know, scav by accident that didn't kill anybody and you end up down minus 0.01 overall. So yeah.
Let's see here. Just a few other, like, this is just from like Discord tweets that they made. The map is approximately 4 miles by 4 miles or 42 kilometers squared, which is smaller than DayZ maps.
Probably good.
Bigger than the Tarkov's maps put together. I'm not sure about PUBG though. Pretty sizable map, I think. Let's see. Permanent loss of gear. Yep. Hundreds of parts for weapon customization, weapon durability, cleanliness. Unique health system aims to simulate the human body realistically. So we'll see what that kind of details. 3 different private military companies. 4 players per PMC on the map. Or sorry, 16 players per PMC on the map. 4 per squad. 1,000 plus AI enemies, which is a lot. Premium game with no microtransactions.
So they say you wait for 6 years. You wait 6 years down the line. They'll be adding the offline server and cosmetics.
Okay, health system not based on hit points. It's based on organs and body parts. If vital organs are destroyed, you die, which is pretty cool. It's kind of what we've been talking about in Tarkov lately. Lots of pools in the system, like your blood pool. If you lose 15% of your blood, you're fine. If you lose 40%, you get enter a coma and then slowly die. Your teammate can stop the bleeding, then use an IV on you and revive you if you're bleeding out. Once you're in a coma, you have 2 minutes. You can drag bodies or injure teammates. If you die, but your teammates can guard your body and come back to get your gear. Alone, your body will probably be looted by whoever killed you. So this is like one thing that they talked about a bit, various spots, is like they really want to have like, it seems pretty heavy emphasized on like squad play, and they want to have like people having roles like medics, sniper, support, things like this, which I really like. So you can like heal your teammates and things like this. I like that space because like in Tarkov you play squads, you don't really get to do that a lot. You're kind of like 3 or however many individual shooters, gunners, like occasionally you might have someone sniping, like long range support. Whereas like in something more like I'm trying to think of another game. Some of that, we'll just say the general like zombie wave survival games like Back 4 Blood or whatever, Left 4 Dead 2, what else? Maybe COD Zombies, maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, just this kind of like idea where you just have like different roles or actually, more like Overwatch is probably a better example where you have like these different roles and things like this. I like stuff like that. So like putting that into this more military extraction-y space, I'm pretty hyped for. I think that's pretty cool. Metabolism system is very in-depth. You will not die from hunger, dehydration. It affects stamina is another thing. Stamina and breathing affect aiming. Recoil is very complex based on weight and other factors. As your magazine empties, you have different recoil because the weight of your weapon is lower, which is like, whoa, it's kind of crazy to me. It's pretty neat. I think that's, yeah, It's like they're going pretty heavy on some of the realism stuff here. They're using the Unreal Engine. They had to develop their own rendering technology, so it's in-house, which is pretty cool. It allows them to achieve the density of the jungle they wanted, millions of trees and bush, very high density terrain, vegetation, wind, rivers, water, other things. And they want to get, like, the game looks amazing. Have you seen any of the footage or screenshot?
It looks insane.
They want to get it, I think they said a 1060, maybe it was a 1080. I can't remember. But they want to get it to like run. They're going to start, I think, once they release the early access, or maybe pre-early access, they want to start optimizing it for like low end. And I think the 1060, or maybe it was the 1050, maybe it was the 1080, I can't remember, but one of those cards they want to go for it. And I want to say like the 1060 or 1050 is like 50% of Steam users or something. Like it's ridiculous. So that'd be good, because I mean, if they can get it optimized on like a 1080, for example, I mean, that'd be great. That's a pretty common
crazy
card.
If they can.
Yeah. And on that note, there's going to be no, like, I think I'm saying this right if I remember correctly, there's going to be no like advantage to like low spec, like low shadows and things like that. Like they don't want that to be a thing, so they're gonna like try to work within that bound. Okay, yeah, so map is seamless, no loading as you travel. Let's see, we talked about the PvE servers. 4 operating bases are only safe spots on the map where you extract the loot when you call in a helicopter. Each wipe, your fob will rotate to the location of a different PMC's fob, so you get to experience the different start points. Okay, that's a neat idea. If you die on the map, your gear will still be there. You can go get the gear for 1 hour, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's like, I really like that. I love that like second chance, that you get that in like DayZ, Rust, maybe the Cycle. You had to like Q snipe, get back into the same lobby. But yeah, I really like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a hybrid between Tarkov and these other games, right? Because it's like the game isn't a permanent open world. So it's not like a server browser where you like pick a server and play that.
Right.
Like,
there's no server browser.
But when you load into a match, you're like in that game for the duration of your session with whoever else is in that session. So it allows you, like, you're not going to probably have like, I don't think you're not going to have like day to day, nemesis or whatever, like from one day, like today, say I play today and then I log off and then I come on tomorrow. But like those same people won't be on the other PMCs. But if I stay on the same server, like, yeah, people will drop in and out. But if like we're all on for 4 hours or whatever, then like I might meet the same PMCs multiple times. Like it is possible, at least. It's kind of a weird. It's like a hybrid, yeah. It's like a hybrid between the two.
Which, because they have that, I think that gives them the space to do this karma system, these like social elements where you do have that sort of like social stigma, social accountability to keep things in check. And on that note, so they want the game to be a true sandbox, so you make decisions. If you want to attack the enemy fob, you can do that, but it should be borderline impossible, almost certainly suicide. That sounds like a fun challenge. I'm sure someone is going to make a YouTube video. I raided the enemy fob for the biggest loot of my life.
Yeah, we heard this from Nikita and stuff about Lexos and things, right? And it's like, here's the cheese strategy to do the AI thing. It's just like, I could see it coming already. Like, I don't know. There's like random conversations about GrayZone that I've had with some other people too. Just like, look how sort of the trailer works or whatever. I'm so skeptical of trailers, like the way people like moving through, like the emergent gameplay is almost never like these trailers end up being.
Yes.
Like you just have to really take it with a pinch of salt.
Absolutely. Early access is first quarter this year. Won't have every feature at start. Central hub with no PvP to meet and trade with other PMCs and hubs. No flea market. Capturing outposts through faction access another base can be attacked and taken over by enemy faction. This was another talking point. Jumping back to the hub and the flea market thing, is like they clearly, I mean, they've played a lot of games, but they didn't want to get into a Diablo fiasco where, for those who don't know, I think it was like Diablo 3, there was just this player ran money market that just got way out of hand. and so they don't want to do that. So they're like trying to like problem solve there. They're still working on it, but they do decidedly want to have like a physical place you meet up and trade, which is great because this is like exactly what I've been like. This is pretty much the game that is like taking parts of other games, survival games that I love. Like I love the Tarkov space aspects of that, and then I love like aspects of like Rust or DayZ, but this is like kind of like marrying the two. And there was like a really cool part about like skills. Like they're gonna have certifications where it's like, you know, I don't know, some type of like you go to this guy, you like, okay, you want to get certified in this sniping category, okay, then you got to do this. So you do that, and it like rewards you based off how well you, or based off completing the certification or something, and then you get the bonuses. Whereas like, you know, he like directly referenced Tarkov, where he was like, instead of you like, you know, cheesing and grinding the skills, we want to have it like more, you know, whatever. So
It's kind of an interesting idea. It's like, yeah, you have to go and do this challenge or do something, and then you get to sniper 2 or whatever. You have to get like 2 headshots in 2, yeah, I don't know, like without missing or something, like something like that.
yeah. There'll be no day and night at early access. Like it's just going to be day, I assume. Eventually they want to do console support, and they're going to have a monsoon season, light rain, and the goal for the game is to give players the perfect raid, prepping for the mission, briefing, infill, scouting, combat, exfil. He wants every move to matter. He wants to be a perfect role-playing game, which sounds really like so far everything I've heard from it, it sounds really promising. I kind of like would like to get out and explore other games outside of like this genre, but this is shaping up, you know, to look like something that's like been like scratching at the back. It's like, it's like Tarkov could be perfect if, you know, it's like, and I feel like this is kind of hitting those points for me. So this might be another game that I might be invested in. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested for sure. It's all going to come down to execution and see how it feels.
Yeah.
Like even if it's a, you know, even if it's a 100-hour game, whatever, and then like it's, you know, there's not enough content there, then like that's honestly also fine. But we'll see. Like I'm hoping that it's going to be big on its own merits, and that it'll be good enough to play for like a long time. So like I think because they sort of alluded to a little bit about, you know, this ground zero thing where there's like strange things going on in the middle, but it's all been like blocked off, and that's kind of what your job is as PMC, right? To go and find it out. So there's like this story mode that's going to be coming with it. But yeah, they've got lots of plans. It sort of sounds similar in some ways to Tarkov because they're going to launch with like relatively bare bones and add stuff as time goes on. We're just, yeah, we're going to have to see. I think the only thing, and again, it's going to come down to execution, right? If you lean your game more towards PvE, the AI better to be damn good.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think that's going to be a big question mark over it until we actually get to see it. Like, how does the AI act? Is it too hard? Is it too easy? That balance is going to be more important than anything else, I think, based on the fact that they want it to be mainly PvE. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if you could play it solo too. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. It might just be a bit harder, especially if there's this slight, like even more complicated than Tarkov's medical system. It almost sounds a little bit like Tarkov's medical system combined with like DayZ's medical system, something like that. It's like Tarkov plus blood plus some more, you know, a few extra things. So, but like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it could be really, really cool. It looks good. The studios seem good as well. I think a lot of the problem that we've had in the extraction shooter genre is that a lot of the studios so far have either been like tiny startup studios that take too long to iterate upon the formula. Things like Marauders, I know people enjoy, but it kind of, I think it takes like, it's still, these things, they take too long to come out of like alpha and into being, you know, working, and then there's like issues and stuff. Or they've been like tack-ons from AAA titles. They just haven't really had the focus that they deserved. And so they look good, but then necessarily the functionality is not really there. And I feel that these guys are sort of like hitting that middle ground where they're a successful studio already. They know what it means to build and finish games multiple times. Yes, it was mobile, but like the pipeline is kind of the same. And it's just like that's promising on its own because they know kind of what to do. They're not having to relearn those lessons, right? Those lessons, especially if you're starting from scratch, those lessons are really quite big in the studios that have that flexibility, like the smaller guys. Whereas the bigger studios don't necessarily have the creative flexibility to do what they want to make the game different enough to stand out, right? So we've always kind of been caught from both ends. And with this, I think looks unique enough, but the team is big enough and experienced enough, and they've got enough money. And to be fair, the development cycles seemed quite decent so far. I think they were saying, what were they saying about like the closed alpha? I can't even remember now. I think they wanted it to be sort of like early this year or something. So who knows? Maybe it'll end up being
Q2, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So like that's fairly quick, I would say. I think the pace of development is decent, and that's promising. That is promising. I would love to succeed and bring something different. Like they've said it themselves. They say it all the time. Like they don't necessarily want it to be a Tarkov Killa. They want to produce their own game. They want to make it, their own thing, separate thing, and that's fine. We can have multiple games exist in tandem alongside each other with different goals and different vibes that you can play depending on exactly what you want to do. But I think it looks like it's interesting enough. It certainly has enough complexity to get me interested, because that's the thing for me. Something like what was it called? The Call of Duty one.
DMZ.
Slips my mind now. DMZ, yeah. It just like wasn't complex enough for me to kind of get like really interested in. Like the progression didn't do it for me really. It was just like usual COD skin stuff. Whereas this game is going to be similar to Tarkov in that sense, and like your usual RPG game mechanic loop where you can like, get better gear and level up stuff and level up traders, and so you've got progression in a meaningful way. And also like I keep coming back to this point whenever I talk about GrayZone, but like it looks so much like Far Cry 3. And if you've got like map exploration and you're like uncovering bits of the map, that's what a lot of Far Cry 3 was about. Like going up the radio towers and like turning them on. Like it sort of almost feels like that same, they're kind of going for that vibe. You're like exploring the island and going from one place to another. Like I feel Tarkov's weird because it feels like the maps feel quite big when you first start playing, but quite quickly you realize the boundaries there. Whereas I can imagine GrayZone being all kind of just open, feeling a bit more like playing Skyrim or something, one of those games that is just a big open map and you can go wherever and you're kind of discovering one place or another place. Whereas Tarkov does get quite samey in some senses because you always start in the same location on the same maps, and you decide to queue in and yada yada. You don't approach interchange from every different direction. Like the spawns, where other people are going to be and all that kind of stuff. So there's enough different things that it's going to be a totally different game to Tarkov, and I think that's what it needs to be. Like it can't be super close to it. I think it needs to be tangential and related and similar, but the vibe can be different and the way around things can be different. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just really want to get my hands on it and actually start to play around with it, because until then we just literally don't know.
Yeah. I'm excited too. Just have to wait and see, I think. And I think, just to reiterate, I mean, it seems like the devs are really passionate about what they're doing. Like it's like clear that they enjoy what they're doing and like are really passionate about it. And it's also like they're gamers. Like that was one of the things. It's like, I think it was, that one theater kid was talking about, he was getting interviewed. He was telling the story of how he, got the job, and he was getting interviewed. And, he was saying how he thought he had to like be all professional and like talk about, all his like accolades and this, that, and the other. And then, the interviewer just stops him and he just goes, "Hey man, I all that stuff's great, but I really only care about one thing. Is like, do you love video games?" And he's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Okay, you're hired." Which I love, that's, to me, that's like, okay, yeah. It's like, because you gotta remember, devs are gamers too, and like I think that's foremost the important thing for me is like, are they like passionate about video games? Yes, great. You know what I mean? That's a good sign for me.
Yeah, I just reminded myself of something else that I was thinking about while we were talking about the flow of stuff. So I was saying before about like the AI being really important, that works really, really well if it's PvE. But they did talk about these like cookie cutter quests, item fetch type things, that they don't really want to have. They want to have these kind of more like sort of semi-scripted kind of quests, like more story style, the ones that are a bit more, I guess like what's the word I'm looking for?
Open-ended?
Just yeah, either a bit more open-ended or feel a bit more natural than some of the forced quests in like many RPGs. And I think they are also going to run into the same, depending on how they do it, right? They could end up running into the same issues that Tarkov does. If you want to make it, you have to go to the place and see the clues and da-da-da. You have to make these things very dynamic. Otherwise, you're going to end up in like wiki quest hell very, very quickly.
Yes.
Because no matter how beautiful you think you've made the quest design, if it's like kind of tricky a bit or slightly tedious or people just can't be bothered and there's a min-max way of getting through the progression, people will just use the wiki if that resource is valuable enough to avoid spending all the time looking and doing whatever it is. Some people will do it properly, but there will be a subset of the community that will want to speedrun the game and do things as fast as possible, and that's just like the way that some people play these games. And so they'll have to like purposefully make it like not wikiable, but in a way that isn't annoying.
Good luck.
And I think that's a very fine line, right?
Yeah.
Like the way that Tarkov have done it, like it's not. I mean, you still have to look on the wiki. They've kind of gone like both ways. It's like you have to look on the wiki, and it doesn't help because you have to look in 20 spots or whatever. They're like 20 very fixed spots. But so long as they can do it like the good single player games do, and that it's enjoyable to do, I think that's the difference, right? If it's enjoyable to do, if it's like sort of a puzzle you have to solve, you go to the place, you pick up the thing, and it tells you where to go for the next part. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be that complicated, but it just feels like you're discovering something or finding things, and you need to find the thing to progress on to the next part. It all then makes kind of logical sense, and it's fun to actually do. Then I think it might be okay, but they just have to tread this like fine line about not making it too difficult, but making it like not formulaic as well, so that you can reasonably go and actually complete these things yourself without looking stuff up and it not be like a hassle. So there's a few hurdles that they have to overcome. Because one of these things is these things always look beautiful when you're looking at them from pre-release, and then when you actually play it, you're like, oh, well, this needs to change and this needs to change. It's always the way. 3 years down the line, everyone's dog shit game, devs don't care. It's the usual cycle, right? So we just have to we have to bear in mind they got the work cut out for them. But they've learned. I think this is the thing. They reference Tarkov a lot, and they've learned the lessons of things that they don't like out of Tarkov, and they're trying to avoid those things. So I feel like sort of optimistic in that sense as well. That
agreed.
At least they're aware of some of the ways these things can go if you do certain, if you take certain actions or you push the game down certain paths. So yeah, it's all going to be in the execution, which is what I've said like about 5 times. But it's true. It's true. I just can't wait for the testing. I can't wait for the testing. I want to get my hands on the game ASAP.
All right. Moving on to what?
The Foul.
The Foul.
Have you used the Foul as wife?
Yeah, early on. I haven't used it recently, but yeah, I've used it early on.
So I've been looking at it. I'm like putting something together at the moment for it. The thing is, the Foul, like it's a lot better than it used to be. I think that's the main thing that I would say about it. Like it's way better than it was, but that's not really saying much. And in all the testing that I was doing with it, like it's good. It still has the issues that it did before, which is that ergo versus recoil is still like, it's one of those few guns where the recoil actually still does kind of matter, because if you don't like mod it out, it is kind of hard to control, especially on full auto. Like if you use it as a DMR, then that's actually fine. But the Foul's kind of unique selling point is the full auto switch, right? The fun switch. Otherwise, you may as well just use something else. You may as well use like a DMR. And the issue that I've run into is I've been looking at like the short barrel stuff, the long barrel stuff, medium barrel, and I think there is a good balance between them all now, except for the kind of awkward position that it sits in relative to the other weapons, which is literally that the MDR is so good in comparison, and you get it like kind of at the same time. Like, yeah, you can get the Foul at like trade level 3, but before that, it's quite difficult to do. Like a budget version of the Foul is really hard to do. Like you have to mount optics to the handguard. The Extreme Duty Dust Cover is on level 3. There's like some barters on level 3 traders, which are okay, like the short versions. But you pretty soon after that get to Peacekeeper 4. And then you could buy the MDR after doing like Wet Job 4. And the problem is, it's just like the MDR is as good, if not better. I mean, it's strictly better than like the long barrel and the medium barrel in pretty much every case. It's got either better recoil and like similar ergo, or way better ergo and similar recoil, like no matter what you do, which is kind of problematic. And they're like, there are good things about the FAL. It is slightly lighter typically than the MDR, using sort of similar size mags. And the main one is that it can take a 50 rounder. The 30 rounder advantage has been eroded because the MDR is actually taking quite a significant buff this wipe, because it can take the 25 rounders out of the spear that you can buy from Peacekeeper 4. So the MDR now gets 25 rounders, which is so close to the FAL's 30s, which ended up being the meta mag most of the time, because the 50s take off a lot of ergo, and then especially if you want to use it suppressed, it's like that classic combination. It's like you end up with like quite low ergo in the end. Whereas you may as well just use the MDR with the 25 rounders, then you get a suppressor as well, and it's still better because the ergo's higher on it as base. It's just really problematic. Like, this is the thing. The FAL is fine, but it's just not meta, I don't think. It's not necessarily a problem, but it could either be maybe a little cheaper or be gotten like a little earlier, maybe. Like, some of the restrictions maybe come down a bit. Like, you were talking previously about the handguard, right?
Yeah.
It's like the rails and the handguard is like mechanic 4. I think it probably could be mechanic 3 and it'd be okay. Like, I don't think it's necessarily OP there. Yeah, it's just this problem. So like, the only build that I found that actually is like, this is good on its own and there's no comparable, is like the 50 round unsuppressed short barrel FAL, because there's not really any comparative to that. You know, you have like unmatched firepower pretty much. Like, the 50 round drum is insane. The unsuppressed version has lots of ergo, especially with the short barrel, and the recoil is like manageable. It's okay, especially at close range. And that build is really good. That build is like better than the MDR's one, I think, in my opinion. And it's better than pretty much everything else because of the mag size. So that's nuts. But outside of that, I just feel like you're better off just using the MDR. It's more of like an MDR problem than it is a FAL problem, you know? Because I feel like the scaling from like the short barrel to the long barrel is actually kind of okay now. It sort of works relatively well.
Yeah.
The ergo balance kind of works well now. So like, it's probably balanced like in and of itself. But there's only a very short window at which you can actually use the FAL before you get the MDR. It's like, oh, I'm finally like, just getting to like mechanic 3, and then it's a couple of levels later, you're like, oh, I'm at Peacekeeper 4, so now I can just use the MDR instead. This is the issue. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it's fine. It's fun. It's interesting. It's all right. But I'm just not really sure. As an even more general note, after using like the big guns the past kind of like 2 sessions, sort of, I just find it so hard. Honestly, I just find it so hard. I don't know whether it's the org that's broken me, or it's just like the way that this wipe works. But because people's plates, like, everybody's only wearing class 3 armor except for like this area here, this little area on the plate. So you don't really need like insane ammo most of the time. And in fairness, most people are using M80 or M62, which is only a class 4 buster anyway. And yeah, the damage is good. But I feel that with like relatively decent fire rate weapons, I get by just as well, actually better with having lower recoil. So I can kind of just hose people down. Whereas the FAL and even the MDR, I find them a bit wild with the recoil that they have. And I end up just like tapping with them, and I'm like, I don't really like semi-auto this wipe. So it's all a bit weird. Like, I think I'd rather I've just like fallen in love with like the smaller calibers with low recoil, so I could just like laser beam people with like the extra big head area because of the neck. The neck is always exposed. You got the face still, the sides, whatever. It's just like, I've just done so well with these like intermediate and like pistol calibers. So I'm just not sure if it's necessary to take the downside on the recoil of these, plus the cost and everything else that goes with it. Like, if you're shooting at long ranges, then sure, but I'm just not sure. Like, maybe it's just lack of practice, but like, I've just really struggled. I struggled with the FAL, but then I also struggled with the MDR, which is supposed to be meta. So I don't know, man. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's definitely got more recoil than AUG, or really, really a lot of the guns, I would say. I mean, it really is a bit of a tap fire meta. Like, I would say like spam fire. I just think full auto is only like good on like a few niche guns, and even then, if they're at any distance, you're probably better off just spamming, because like as soon as you reach the apex, you're gonna start getting horizontal recoil introduced, which is just like objectively worse than vertical.
Yeah.
unless you want to like roll the dice and hit soft armor. I guess you can make that argument. But anyways,
Yeah. That's the thing about the fire rate, right? The fire rate and the small enough recoil, then the pattern gets small, and then you eventually hit something. Like somebody was mentioning in chat about the Scar as well being like extra bad compared to the MDR, and I was trying to build a Scar that makes sense. I just can't really.
I don't think you can.
I keep getting them in Moonshine, and this morning I sold them all. I had like 7 or something that I was just like waiting to use, and like after my experience with the FAL and the MDR. I just don't want to use it at all. I've just sold them all. Sold all my Scar H's. I don't even care. I just don't want to use them. Like they're 20 rounders as well, right? So the MDRs get 5 more bullets in its mag than the Scar.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's like the terrible. And Scar feels like the terrible, like middle ground, worst child of all of them. It's like the bad ergo of the FAL. You know, the small mags, like smaller than the MDR. Like the whole thing, like it takes up loads of your screen. Like the whole thing just and worse recoil. Like the whole thing just sucks. I'm just like feeling very like downbeat about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like, I don't know. They've just been tough. It's been really tough to use them.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing I will say about the FAL is like, I agree. I think the MDR probably is the better gun overall, just because you get, it has high ergos at space, and you just really need to slap a suppressor and a grip on, and then you get the 25 rounders. That's it, right? The caveat is you have to get it from like, Reshala, some type of boss, some type of crate. You can't buy off the flea. Or you do the Peacekeeper quest line to unlock it, which I think is, it's kind of, I think it's like Wet Job part. Maybe it's
4, it is, yeah.
Maybe it's Cargo, something. Anyways, yeah, something like
that. It's Wet Job 4.
Okay.
It's Wet Job 4.
So it's kind of a later unlock. Same's kind of true for the FAL though. I mean, you really need Mechanic 3, so level 30 is kind of like your entry point, and even then it's like, you can't really deck it out. You might have to make some compromises or pay a little extra here and there for like flea market stuff. But I think the thing with the FAL versus NDR is like the FAL, you get more customization. Like, do you want 30 rounders? Do you want a drum mag? Do you want, less recoil, etc.? I think maybe you could get, you're gonna have to make compromises if you're gonna go for less ergo than, or sorry, less recoil than the MDR. Then you're gonna suffer on ergo, obviously,
like a lot as well. Yes. And this is the thing, right? It's like I feel like you have choices, but you have like bad choices mostly. So it's like the main one is like, do you want a 50?
Primarily.
Outside of that, the MDR does all of it, and it's like, okay, the MDR won't go down to those low levels of recoil. Okay, fine. But if you do that with the FAL, like you have to like hipfire that thing. Like you're not ADSing.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the unfortunate thing about this meta, or I wouldn't even say meta really, just how they've handled the recoil, is that because everything's so similar, we'll say, the like hidden stats seems to be largely irrelevant. I'm not even sure what still has hidden stats besides like the AK 101 and 102, where it like prefers a left or right angle.
Yeah, there's a bit of an angle thing, but that's it really.
Otherwise, everything's like you can pretty much take most stuff at face value, which I think unfortunately kind of diminishes the options. Because as I said previously in last cast, like, the Scar L's, for example, were like in a very interesting spot in like the Tarkov weapon progression, because like, they weren't as good as the M4 fully kitted out, but they were better than a stock M4. And like maybe you could get like a mid-tier M4 to like, be kind of similar, but like the one thing the Scar had was that the like hidden stats was like very horizontal very vertical, and it had slower rate of fire than the M4. Like it felt more well-rounded, the system, even though I didn't really like it. Like I didn't like the fact that it was hidden stats and this and the other. Whereas now it feels like everything's been very like it needs more balance. Like I don't know what needs to happen, but like there needs to be some type of like more balance. Like I was looking at 7.62s by 39s, like AKs and such, and like every single one seems like dog except for the SKS, oddly enough, which is like I don't really know why that's the case. I mean, we could talk about it in a second, but like I was looking through them and like all the AKMs, like the lowest you could get them to was like 80 or like 70 something. Like, you know, I mean, it's just like, I mean, you really gotta like kit these things out to even get remotely low recoil. We're talking like slap on the muzzle adapter with like, you know, the combo suppressor, whatever. But by this point, it's like, why not just buy like a, you know, MDR or whatever, you know? I don't know why I'm using the AK MS, but anyways. And then there's the mutant, which is like, it still has high recoil. Like I think it's like 80s, and like you can't, I don't know why they made this change, but like you can't put the blast mitigator on the long barrel, I think it is. You used to be able to do that, but you can't anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Which kind of makes the gun hard to mod, because then you have to like choose between, like, I don't know, there's just too many limitations on it for it to like feel good, and I don't even think the stats are that good. I don't even know if I have a test build. Let's see what this is at. So this is, this is some god awful contraption. This is like shorty mutant with the RK2 with the blast mitigator or Mo RE, whatever. It's without a sight on it. It's got 59 ergo 75 recoil, which like sounds kind of, you know, okay, but like it has the blast mitigator, which means you won't be able to see jack once you start shooting. It's also unsuppressed. 75 is not that low when you think about the AUG or the M4s. I mean, it just doesn't sound, and it's like, yeah, I have to craft BP if I want to do it. I mean, PP is okay, but then like I look at this SKS here, and it's 55 ergos, 60 recoil, which 60 is a lot better than 75. What was it?
Yeah.
And it's suppressed. And it's like, dude, the thing shoots like a dream. Like it has like just like, it has recoil, but not a lot, and it doesn't really go left or right. It's just like you just spam tap fire, boop 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 boop. Like it feels really good. It kind of sucks because the mags aren't that great. Like they pack slower. The 35 rounders, like it's when you reload, it like pops one round out. So like you gotta like do the swap thing, or you know, pull out your knife and reload in the menu or whatever. But it feels really good, which I'm kind of sad that they nerfed it, which we didn't talk about, but
we actually didn't talk about it.
This is how my luck is, right? So the night before the patch, I build the gun SKS. I'm like, I'm gonna use the SKS Smart because I've been hearing such great things about it, and then the patch drops and they say they nerfed it. I'm like, no, I didn't even, and I didn't even get to use it the night before. I just like shot in the hideout a few times. Like, yeah, it feels pretty good. I can't wait to use this tomorrow. And then tomorrow rolls around, and then it like nerfed it, and I try it again, and it like I can't really tell the difference, but I think maybe they upped the recoil, but I couldn't remember the numbers. But this time I took a screenshot, so if they do that change again and nerf this case, I'll have the evidence to catch them.
Yeah, they changed the vertical recoil by quite a lot.
That's what I thought.
Is what they did, and then reverted it, right? Because the patch got rolled back, so now it's back to the way it was. So the SKS still feels good again.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I like, this is the thing, is like they need to do something with the balancing, because it doesn't feel it just doesn't feel good. I don't know. It just feels really weird. Like even the RD is like feels very mid in my opinion, like stats wise. Like it has, I guess the thing it has going for it is like it has high ergo, but like it shoots slower. It fires 7.62 by 39, which I just don't feel like is a good round this fight for plethora of reasons. And it's really not that, like, I don't know, it just feels very, very mid, which is like doesn't make sense because it's like a level, it's quest locked and it's like level 4 traders locked. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just feels like, I don't know. There's just something, I know I've said this before a million times, but it just feels like they need to do another balancing pass post recoil patch. Like something just feels really off.
Maybe, yeah. I think one of the issues that I have, and I think we said this at the beginning, it's like one of the downsides, like on balance, like it's way better than the old recoil system by a long way. But one of the issues that comes along with it is that, to me, like a lot of guns just feel the same. It's like, why should I use the AK-74 this versus that versus this versus that, or the 103 versus the AKM versus the RD versus the Mute? They all feel the same. You know, they've got like similar vertical recoils. They all feel about the same as each other. Like there's no real differentiation between the different guns within a caliber. Other than like, does it punch up more or not? Like, it's just, that's the only thing for me. It's like within 5.56, again, like the 101 feels the same as the MDR, which feels the same as the M4 built to a similar spec, which feels the same as the G36, except the AUG, because it has ridiculously low recoil compared to all the other guns in that category. And then you have something like the Spear. I feel like the Spear is actually in an okay place. Like the Spear is kind of busted. It's like dramatically OP. Like 62 recoil out the gate with the mods that you've got on there. I can see that you've got it there. 58 ergo. It's insane. The gun is like light keeper task number 10. You can only buy it from the flea and it's like 300,000 rubles. I feel like that's fine. Like if you want to pay for the crazy gun that you only get like fighting raid drops, like, okay, fine. Yeah, feel free. You spend $500,000 on your gun. Great. Then it gets to be really good. I feel like that's fine. I actually feel like it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't really want them to nerf it, you know?
Yeah, actually,
I've not even used it. I just think
I
it's in a
haven't
good
used it
spot.
either. Now that you bring it up, though, I do think it's very interesting that it's not flea market banned.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, isn't it?
Matter of fact, even the crazy new face shields, face masks that they added aren't flea market banned is also kind of interesting. Like that.
I think the CQCM might be now. Oh, actually, no, maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't. I think somebody in my chat said they thought it was, but I think nobody had them for sale on the flea. I think they just ran out.
Interesting.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think you're right. Correcting myself.
Yeah, I actually used it the other day. So, are we good to talk about boss hunting?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll just do that quick and then we'll finish up.
Yep. So I did Psycho Sniper. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about my achievements lately. I did Psycho Sniper, which was 5 PMCs in a single raid. Well, without dying, we'll say. So what I did was I went factory, got a couple kills, and then went to interchange because it's my comfort map and got some kills there. But I made some mistakes, died one time, and so I had to restart. And then I got by the stupid system where I didn't accept the tasks that you failed.
Oh, no.
So I like wasted time on factory, so I had to go back to factory. But anyways, I ended up getting 3 kills on factory, went to interchange, killed someone trying to run the ultra, and then like another guy looted him, and then I killed him. So I was like, great. And so I panicked, ran out. But one of the raids, because I was...
Oh yeah, because you have to survive after you get the 5 kills.
I'm pretty sure. And it's funny because I got shot at towards the end, and I freaked out and just like booked to the extract and got out of there. But one of the raids I was testing, or I was like moving into the underground part of Ollie, and I had noticed to my left there was like some boxes, and there's a little shack, like a little shack that you walk in, like a worker shack, and I was like, huh, I bet I can mantle on top of the boxes and then mantle top of the shack. Well, I couldn't mantle top of the shack, but I got on top of the boxes, and I could see like over the container all the way towards like hole in the floor, like from the underground. I was like, oh, this is a cool angle. I saw a scav walking, and then suddenly I get hit in the face, and I'm like, oh shit! I jumped down, run out, and my thankfully that face shield saved me. I mean, it's like super expensive. How much is it even? Not the armor, not the Death Shadow one. The what's it called? They even have it saved as my favorites. Oh, Atomic Defense. Yeah, this thing. Class 4, face, jaws, eyes, head top. I think this thing's actually really good. Like, I don't know if I would say it's OP, but it seems like you get no visual debuff. Like, think about it. I could wear a helmet with a visor, but then I'm gonna get the breathing and then the visual debuff of like the, glass in my eyes. Or you could go even more extreme, wear an Alton where now you have no ears, and then you have like smaller field of view because the Alton visor, So I feel like this thing is really good. It actually, like, if you plan to play a long time in the wipe, it's probably worth grinding to get this from PC.
How'd you get it again? Like, what's the unlock?
It's a Lightkeeper task. I don't know which one, but it is a Lightkeeper task. A lot of these are Lightkeeper tasks, like the Death Shadow lightweight armor mask. I've used this one. It hasn't saved me yet, but I was just like, I do feel like this Atomic Defense is just like really good.
I think that one's insane. Yeah, it's almost like a baby to Killa.
Yeah, it's basically a U-lock, but only for your face. Your top of your head, eyes, what was it? Jaws and face. Yeah. It just seems, and like there's kind of like no downside, like obviously your ears, the back of your head, etc. But like there's just like this weird thing where it's like one time I actually had a class 5 plate in my back and then a class 4 plate in my front. And I noticed it. I was like, God, that's so awful. But then I thought about it. I was like, is there ever like a strategy where it's like, okay, I'm going to wear I'm going to wear the Anvil, you know, that one LZSH helmet that's got the little like,
Oh, with the Aventail.
the Aventail, yeah. Wear that in the back, class 5 in the back. And I'm just going to do my quest and just run away from everybody. Like, you know, it's like, is that ever a strat? I'm like, eventually got to face the music, and the music being their bullets shooting at you. So like, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Like, you just go on full like maximize back protection, but I don't know. Just some weird strategy. But anyways, so yeah, got Psycho Saber done. That was weight off my shoulders because I was kind of worried about that one. Factory proved. I mean, the correct play might be going to factory and just doing all in factory because there's a lot of. Well, if you think about it, your chances of running into someone who's also questing and doing like some weird obscure quest, like pistolings. There's a lot of like nakeds with bolt action, shotguns, naked shotguns. Because I just wore like Giga Chad gear, like, you know, visor, face shield, whatever. 2 bolties, 2 VPOs of APM. So, you know, don't reload, just swap to the next one and just keep going. So yeah, I mean, because there was a couple times where I got like 3 on there. So it might be correct just to keep spamming that if you want to be like time efficient. Anyways, I found a Lex on wood, so now I have a second thick case. That's great. I just got to find 2 more Lexes, I think, for the prices. Did Test Drive Part 1, got that done. I was having troubles with that, but got that done. And now it's just boss hunting. And the thing with boss hunting that sucks the most is spawns. Like, I watched a Killa guy video because I haven't like farmed Killa or like really, I don't know if I've ever killed him since they changed him to spawn in a million different places in the interchange. But the strats are wild. It's like 6 flashbangs, no helmet, you know, just like Doctor Disrespect armor, MP18, which is the break action Mosin. And you just like rush these areas, throw flashbangs. If you hear oblate, then that's Killa, and then you just like one tap him in the head and then loot him and get out. And then the other weird part is, I remember you talked about this a while ago, is when you run in, like within like 30 seconds you'll get like a network packet loss in the top right corner. And if it does show up, then that means Killa didn't spawn. If it doesn't show up, that means he did spawn, which is counterintuitive to what I would assume how this logic would work, but apparently that's the case. And so the one raid that, because I played like 5 or 6 or 7, I don't remember, and the one raid that it didn't give me the packet loss, I was like, great, this is it. Pop the SJ6, pop the Trimadol or whatever, SJ9, whatever, the infinite stamina, sprint, start spamming nades, nothing. I hear other people spamming flashbangs. I can see flashbangs going off on the floors below me. Like, it is pure chaos on this night interchange rate. Everyone's, and this is the problem, and this is, Pesley talked about this, is because they had the boss spawn rate so low at the start of the wipe, and now everyone and their mother is doing these boss hunting quests. Like, same for Sturman, because I was trying Woods earlier. It's like, dude, within like 2 minutes you hear SVDs cracking off. It's like, great. I spawned all the way at like Scav camp, you know, and this guy spawned like who knows where, like right next to it, you know, in the forest somewhere. So he's already got it. It's like by the time you get there, he's already dead. It's like, well, just try. And it's just like not fun because the raids where Killa didn't spawn, I don't really have anything else to do there. Like, I can kill scavs for the decontamination quest, but like I'm gonna get that eventually. Like, so I'll just run to the extract and reset, and then I spend another 5 minutes in the queue, play 30 seconds of the raid. Like, it's actually really frustrating, and I wish that either the boss spawn rates are high at the start of the wipe. Like, I feel like 20 is a good number, because I think it's like also exciting early wipe to fight a boss, win, and then get all this good loot, you know, that you can't get, right? Like, if you kill Rashad at the start of wipe, getting 5.681 is great, you know, or even BT from the guards.
And you kind of deserve it, right? If you've got like terrible gear, then
like I don't see what the big deal is. Like, I don't know why BSG are do the way they do, but or the other alternative,
no people to farm them and stuff. That's
the alternative. Just give me the boss quest very early on, like level 10. That way, like if I do run into them when they're like 2% spawn chance or whatever, it's like I can actually take advantage of it. It's just, anyways. boss hunting's. Oh, and this is the other thing with Killa is like, which I think we talked about, but he may not spawn with the helmet, so it's like I gotta like. It's just like the
got to double dip the RNG.
amount of grinding in my future is just like I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I don't know if I'll be able to make it, Giga.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a guy, Holy Duck, who's doing the Killer thing in my Discord, and he was like, literally, it's just like a stream of consciousness as he just slowly lost his mind. He's just like, he's just like tried everything, like try night, try day. He's like nighttime, it's just all people Killer farming. He's like in the day, at least some people are playing normally and playing normal quests, but like it's just like impossible. Like he's either dead or you don't get to him in time, or he's like he kills you, or whatever. There's like a couple of random clips. It's like a scav like turns around and goes slush you, and he kills the scav. The scav falls over. Killer is directly behind him and just one shots him, and he's like, no.
That's so funny.
This is like the worst kind of stuff. Just actually terrible.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, I can see lots of people struggling with this, and it's exactly what Pesley said, what you just brought up now, which is that because the spawn rate was so low, now everybody needs to do it. Everyone's got the quests. I don't think I have a single, because I'm just playing normally and not doing boss quests, right? I don't think I have a single boss quest complete.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're actively farming bosses on purpose, you just don't really see them, to be honest. So it's like, I played like a reasonable amount of Factory. Still yet to see Killa. I haven't killed Killa. I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
It's not that he's killed me a lot of times. I literally haven't seen him. The spawn rate's supposed to be 20-25% now or something. And it's like, I don't know. I must have played more than 20 Factory raids. It's like, haven't seen him. He's either in a different bit of the map or hiding behind a box or something. And, the 4 raids where I statistically could have seen him. So it's just like, it's just mad. It's just mad.
Yeah, it's a shame.
So is it really just boss kills then? That's like all you need. How much other stuff do you need for Kappa?
It's boss kills. It's Crisis, which I can't remember if it's 2. I think it's 2 lytics and 3 ophthalmoscopes, which is going to be kind of a grind because, yeah, I don't know. That one's going to be kind of grindy. And then I think that's kind of it. Which, on that note, there's a lot of streets quests that aren't required for Kappa. Like, I don't have to kill Kaban or the new boss, which I wasn't aware of, but there's just like, yeah. Decontamination.
I think a lot of people complaining about like putting streets for Kappa because people can't run it or find it hard to run, so it kind of excludes people from getting Kappa. I think maybe that's why. I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of Insomnia, which I'm gonna do naturally on Night Interchange.
So you're pretty close, really, other than the bosses. But like, yeah, the bosses are, as we said, a huge grind.
And the Willer's Wallet. That's one thing that's going to be kind of a grind too, maybe.
You could do Mark Dream for that at least.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just more RNG. I mean, it is what it is, but it just doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, run your scav when you got downtime, and then on Factory.
Oh, I did find my Vertex, my last one I needed. Thank God, this was another huge thing. I was like. One day I spent the whole day just scavving, got nothing, right? And I was just like really down to press. Next day I was like, okay, I'll start for scav raid on Lighthouse, maybe. Like I even had this route I was doing, like checking all the spawns. And then first box I checked had a Vertex, and I was like, time to get the fuck out of this raid. I was so thankful because I was just like, God, I do not want to have to play this like map as a PMC and like just sit here for hours grinding the loot pools, because the loot pools are really weird. It's like rare spawns, but it's like rare spawns plus, which is like Bitcoin, GP coins, axle parrots, but then it's also like stems, and then also like military, whatever the wireless,
the CFTM thing,
and then Vertex, and it's just like a weird. But it's like super unique to Lighthouse. It's just really weird loot pool. So like every time I find something that I don't need, it's just like even more infuriating. It's like I probably have like 5 or 6 of those wireless transmitter radios things. I don't even know where they are.
I found my first one the other day on the streets.
I have 2.
I actually even missed it. It was like chat that saw it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so at least I've done that. But I still need 2 Vertex. As I said, I found one. I managed to run through it out of the raid. So that was great. And I haven't seen another one since. I just haven't played Lighthouse since then. I really should, right? I've got a couple of things. I need to do 1 building for recon and 1 build, and then 1 more thing for buying M80.
I was gonna say, you got to do the revision. At least do the revision one.
I haven't done it. I'm just playing with M62. It's fine. I just buy it from Beekeeper.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
I've just skipped it completely.
I guess that's fair. If you really don't mind the tracers.
Oh, well, because I was playing with the foul, like close range.
Yeah.
Didn't really matter so much.
Yeah.
Although it probably did scupper me in a few places, but you know, it was all right. I just wish that there was a way to do it that wasn't just like lighthouse rare spawns, you know? Like, it's just
Yes.
annoying.
I mean, technically
I wish there was other
reserve,
places to
but
do
I
it.
just don't.
Yeah. Like you can. I've never found a vertex on reserve, but you can
think
find
I have
CFDMs though. But even still, it's like I wish that you could just find them like more generally.
There's labs.
Like if there were other places. Yeah, I guess you can find vertex on labs. I suppose. Yeah, it's just rough. It's just rough. Like feeling like I have to run this specific set of loot runs on Lighthouse to get this one item.
Yes.
You just don't. You just wouldn't encounter unless you actually grind for it. That's the thing that I just find annoying about it. Like unless I'm specifically going to do that thing, you just don't run into it. Because like back when they first added these quests, and they were adding Lighthouse and stuff, I was like, because I was quite late to learn Lighthouse, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just because you know I don't really run these loot runs and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like when I actually looked into it, it's just like, oh no, like unless you're playing a very specific way, you just wouldn't find it. You just literally won't find it unless you're doing the very particular things that you know that you need to do to find this thing. And you wouldn't know either because the game doesn't tell you, of course. So you just have to like hear from the community like where these things spawn, where other people anecdotally found stuff, and just go for it. So yeah, painful. I literally haven't set foot in labs since Vibe. I haven't even been in. Not played one raid there.
Couple of me and some buddies, they wanted to do a labs for the weekend. It's kind of like a final, maybe not a final of Tarkov, but some of them came back and played, and yeah, we did labs. We basically sat in our spawns for 20 minutes and then played the raid.
Kind of how you have to do it if you don't want to die straight away.
Yeah. It was okay. It's just it's kind of unfortunate because that was probably the most safest thing to do. Like I don't know. It's just not. I don't think it. Like not many of us played a lot of labs, so we were kind of just like, we didn't want to get like if there's gonna be hackers in the lobby, just do your thing and then get out.
Yeah,
and then we'll do our thing. Which that's what it is.
It's just unfortunate that that's kind of like the strategy. Like I actually watched a video from Geeks who just put out a video about playing Lighthouse as like someone coming back to Tarkov, and he was like, again, sit in your spawn for 20 minutes. Was literally the advice he had in his video, and it's like
stupid.
It's legitimately the best way to play Lighthouse and maybe Labs as well. Like it's just so like I don't know. It's just rough, right? That's what my biggest issue with trying to find the like level 3 items for the hideout in Labs. It's like you have to roam all over the map, find them. So you die in 90% of the raids, I would say. Even if you kill like when I did this, 2 wipes ago, and did it properly and did like both parts. It was like you can kill. I had some good labs raids in the end because I was playing it for 4 weeks, and you could kill like 3 people, and then you're like, well, like I have no other goal here. Like I have enough money so I can buy my gear back, so it's fine. So I'm just gonna keep going until I find the items, or I die, or I've hit all the spots. And like those things happen normally in a very specific order, right? Like you either die, run out of spots, or find the item, like in that order. And it was just really hard. Like people have either farmed the item already, or you kill 2 or 3 people, and then die to some random dude in an office because like you had to go in there to go and get the item.
Right.
Like it was just kind of demoralizing, right? Because there wasn't much you could do, and I felt like I was the one being forced to move around.
Yeah.
To go and get the stuff. So it was just painful. Just painful. So I just don't really, again, I haven't felt the need to go back. I feel like very resistant this wipe to doing stuff I don't want to do.
Well, good for you.
And I'm like, do I need Intel 3? Do I need solar power? Like, no, like it's fine. I don't need any of these things really. Like, do I need more money? Not really. I've got 30 something mil now because I've stopped buying GPUs. So now the money's just like stacking up. I've got monoclete plates on an alchemy conveyor belt coming out the lavatory. What more do I need? It's all good. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I hope that you have some more boss kills under your belt by the time we speak next.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
It'd be good to get Kappa. I'm rooting for you. And this is so early in the wipe as well. Like, it's definitely doable.
Yeah, just It's
3 months later, they've got the lost boards at 90%. Church is still trying to kill Killa.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I'm just kind of worried I'm gonna like reach to a point where I'm just like, why am I doing this? Am I having fun? No. But it's like my brain can't not want to do this. You know, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. But it's something I want to do just to be done with it, and then never again. Never again. Uninstalling. Permanently retired. Literally beat the game.
I've seen it before. When my friend beat the game and got Kappa, he literally never played again. I've seen it before. I've seen this playbook previously.
Could be me.
Like, I got Kappa the same wipe after him, but I didn't grind it as hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, man. He was just like, on any piece of spare time, he was like, I must finish this. Like, literally drag himself kicking and screaming to the finish line.
Yeah.
He's like, I must finish this. And then I'm never going to play again. I've like ruined the game for myself. I was like, you're a dumbass. You did this to yourself. Like,
that's kind of how I'm feeling. I feel like,
and this was ages ago, and it was easier.
And, you know, I'm not quite there, but I'm feeling the rumblings. You know, it's just you know, deep below the surface.
Like, honestly, I feel that the process of like streaming it solo is like just so different. I don't know whether you just play like on your own or whatever, but you almost need to just like sit in VC with somebody like not playing and just like commiserate. I think it's the only way to really like enjoy the game. Like, if you just sit there on your own in your room playing, like it's quite like it's a lonely experience. Like, I find it hard playing solo without chat now. I find it difficult.
No, 100%. Like, I mean, when I first played the game, absolutely, I could play solo for, you know, days, but nowadays, dude, I have to stream it. Like, I just can't, like, unless I'm just like not feeling like doing like playing, you know, like like there was that one day where I scavved, you know, for like 4 hours on Lighthouse trying to find the thing. I didn't really feel like playing or like doing anything, but like that was like my minimum effort I could put in. So I just played offline, scav, didn't stream or anything. But I just like can't playing by myself without streaming and like not having anyone to like vent to and just be like a miserable, like just imagine myself like sulking to myself in queue for 5 minutes by myself. Like, it just feels awful.
Watching YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
Just... like, the thing is, but think of the experience difference between like when you played solo before, when you played solo, you know, now, whatever, like what you're actually going into raid and doing. It's just like, it's so mechanical and like so not organic. Like, before you're like, I've got this kit, like, is it going to work? Like, oh, I don't really know the maps. Like, where am I going to spawn? It's like all exciting. Whereas now it's just like, it's like that Wilders meme that he put up ages ago. It's just like, you know, the new player experience. Then it's like after 2,000 hours, you got like the hood up, just like, because you're just like, which spawn am I going to be? Which one is like the most optimal path to get through to the 25% chance with looking for the desync icon in the corner? It's just like, it's so like machine-like, right? Compared to the organic experience when you first played. That's why it's like so different.
Ignorance is bliss. That's why I say, like, when do people play Tarkov, I was like, enjoy it, man. Because like those first like 100, even 1,000 hours, it's just like there's so much to absorb into the little gamer brain that, you know, it's just it's a great game, man. I mean, it's such a weird game because it's one of those games like I feel like I need to know the person well enough to be able to like confidently recommend it to them. But I do feel like Tarkov is a game worth playing. But asterisk, what type of gamer are you?
Yeah, exactly. I somehow managed to keep it at bay a little bit by not grinding too hard. I think that's like part of the deal. Genuinely is. I think it helps. The fact that I like have to go and make YouTube stuff, and I can't just like sit on the game on stream, like, genuinely is helpful to keep my sanity.
Yeah, and it's great economically.
Yeah, so it ends up working out both ways. So it's like, but it's weird because we were talking about this in chat the other day, and I was like, it's like, you know, doing the YouTube stuff is like most of like the business that you know I have for content creation. But obviously, I'm not playing the game, so I'm not as experienced as people who stream full time. But I'm thinking about the game because I'm making videos about the game. But so it's kind of this weird hybrid. It's like, you know, it's like I sort of end up playing as much as people who, maybe even a bit less sometimes, than people who have like a full-time job. Because my full-time job just so happens to be making videos about Tarkov. It's not actually playing Tarkov. It's like this weird thing.
Right.
So I end up progressing kind of at the same pace as a lot of people who like have a regular full-time job, even though they're not thinking about Tarkov in the day, and I am. It's like kind of, it's just weird. It's just a weird thing. Kind of funny.
Well, shall we conclude today's episode?
Guess we should.
It's a good one. It was a long
Guess
one.
we should.
But yeah, look forward to next week when I have Kappa and I have achieved all my life goals, and yeah, be great.
Exactly.
But as always, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.
Catch you later.